If you want to make your first or next million fast, you do not obsess over savings. I mean, the rich, they actually think completely different than us. They have better decision making, and it's not always sexy or sophisticated, but it is a secret. So today, we're going to give you their secret in this market today. Welcome back to the Big Deal Podcast. I'm Codie Sanchez. Let's dive in. I literally only have 3 investments I worry about. That's it. My business, mutual funds, and equity in private businesses. I don't do single stocks. I don't mess around with gold. I don't try to speculate on Bitcoin. And I do not need the hottest stock tip from your actually broke nephew who is day trading on Robinhood. I do not worry about missing out on deals at all. Let me teach you the smartest things I know about investing in less than 25 minutes. Lessons I learned at Goldman Sachs, State Street, Vanguard, so you can steal my homework and escape all the misery that went into working in those 3 companies. If you're emotional about your money, you're going to lose, full stop. And in investing, there are no called strikes. You don't have to swing at everything. You don't need to be right often. You just need to be right where it matters. That's what Buffett said, greatest investor of our time. So since taking control of Berkshire Hathaway, if you don't know Buffett's backstory in 1965, he basically doubled his money continuously. And at roughly a 20% rate per year, he would compound. So that is twice the S&P 500. Over time, that difference, it ain't small. It's actually everything. That's probably how Buffett turned his few pennies into roughly 5.5 million% return. The S&P, about 39,000%. So same country, same markets, totally different mindset and way to go about it. Now let's look at where we're going in 2026. AI stocks are trading at record valuations. NVIDIA alone is now worth more than all major US and Canadian banks combined. Debt, government and personal, is exploding. People are borrowing not just to invest, but to live. Inflation has made a lot of people's lifestyles really expensive, including mine. So credit filled the gap. I was just on the line today with one of our members at Contrarian Thinking. He owns a restaurant. His food costs have gone up 300% in the last 18 months. And on top of that, the market is more concentrated than ever in just like a few big companies. So of course, investors, anybody trying to make money, we don't feel great. And you probably shouldn't. One of the clearest warning signs right now is leverage, so debt. That means more stocks are being bought with other people's money, borrowed money, than at almost any point in modern history. Margin debt, which is especially scary, that's where you can buy things on somebody else's balance sheet, has outpaced the growth of the whole market for decades. Meaning a lot of the stuff that's happening with today's huge valuation is actually built on borrowed cash, money people don't even have. Now, Buffett, he don't like it. He's warned about this repeatedly. He's pretty blunt, actually. He's like, anything can happen in markets, which is why you never borrow money against securities. I agree. I think fuck stocks, actually. Leverage doesn't magnify you. It magnifies all your mistakes. So when too much debt floods the market, prices stop reflecting reality. They get artificially inflated, and then volatility, so upside, downside movement increases. And we're seeing that right now. When I was at Wall Street, you would measure something called the VIX. And it's Wall Street's, you could call it a fear gauge. And it basically signals how investors feel, good, bad, scared, freaked out. And right now, that thing is spiking, meaning people are freaked out. So what does Buffett and the smartest investors in the world, what do they do when things get overheated? Well, let me tell you what he doesn't do. Stare at stock prices at all. He ignores them. He looks at businesses. One of his first rules is so simple. If you're just looking at the price, you're not investing, you're speculating. Real investing, it actually starts with the business itself, how it makes money, how durable it is what he would say, and whether it'll still matter 10 years from now. Like a lot of these AI startups, they're going to be like, gone, right? Every overheated market follows the same script. People stop buying businesses and start flipping tickers. They don't care about what the company is worth. They care what somebody else might pay for it tomorrow. It's called the next idiot theory. And that's how bubbles form. I think we're in one right now. And if you haven't studied the underlying businesses that you're looking at, you have no idea whether a stock is expensive or cheap. I swear I'm going to stop talking about stocks here in a second. My takeaway is simply this. Most people, especially if they're talking to you right now, are giving you a lot of opinions. You don't need more opinions on things to invest in. You don't need a next hot deal. You need fewer decisions. And the edge really in investing isn't speed. It's things you don't fucking do or restraint. So the best investors win by not being active all the time, being selective. They think, they learn, and when they act with conviction. So I want to think about it this way. You know, the thing is, wealthy people think differently. The wealthiest people in the world, They get their riches, not from trading their time for money, but by becoming either fractional, so part of, or sole owners of cash flowing businesses. It's not going to be your Elons or your Jeff Bezoses, although in many ways those do too. These are business owners like the Koch brothers, some of the richest family in the world, off of things like toilet paper, Wayne Huizenga, garbage trucks. And what you might not know is there is a groundswell of people quietly building their wealth by finding, buying, investing in Main Street reliable businesses. No glitz, all cash flow. Because I want you to remember one of my favorite quotes from Sam Altman, although he kind of does look like a lizard. He scares me slightly. He is also the founder of ChatGPT. He says, the biggest economic misunderstanding of my childhood was that people get rich from high salaries. Though there are some exceptions, almost no one in the history of the Forbes list has gotten there with a salary. You get rich by owning things. So then the question is how do you do that? Well, you learn how to buy parts of businesses privately. You don't even have to leave your job to do it. In fact, I didn't. Building ownership isn't one skill. Scott Adams would say, rest in peace, that it is a broad stack of skills. You need to know how to find the right opportunities or even see them. You got to know how to look at the numbers and see if they make sense. You got to figure out how to get the money to buy it or whether you should put your money in. And then you got to negotiate terms. And if you own the business outright, you operate it. If you don't worry about that. And then eventually the cool part is you'll sell down the road, potentially getting a big exit after you're done with this business. And so this is an essential skill today. If you're in a W-2, inflation is eating away at your wages while AI is eating away at your role. Negotiating equity, profit sharing, ownership stakes, you got to do it. It's really important. And if you're looking to buy your first business, you need to learn how to do all of these things. And you need to know that often the growth comes from not within, but from acquiring competitors in your business, from doing deals with other people in complementary businesses. Buffett would say, volatility is not risk. Risk is not knowing what you're doing, which you're no shit. The truth is we don't have to worry so much about the market when we're in private markets because the businesses that we're investing in, they're not day trading assets. And here's why this matters so much right now today. Look at the job market. It's like musical chairs. Even if you still got a chair, these aren't your grandpa's sturdy oak rockers, right? They're $2.99 folding chairs from Alibaba, which I can tell you firsthand, that's not a good thing. One algorithm change, one AI update, one earnings miss, and they collapse. So how do you diversify your income streams? You own lots of things. I think we are in an asset ownership race with AI right now in a way that we don't even realize. Buying businesses and owning parts of businesses will be like getting on the last lifeboat out of the Titanic. You will either be the person who owns the farm or you'll be the donkey that the farmer told, don't worry, that tractor is not going to take your job. Donkeys are just going to be in charge of the tractors and the tractors are going to do all the work and the donkeys are going to hang out. Except for a lot of us, it is going to take over. I was on Wall Street and I was watching all my peers chase fractional shares of massive corporations they didn't control. Meanwhile, I saw these guys over here called private equity, really smart guys, and they were snapping up small, profitable local businesses because they realized what I didn't at the time was that nothing beats cash flow. If you go invest in the stock market, do you ever get a huge check from your stock market investments each week? No. So that realization led me to change a lot of my life. I invested, I built up cash flow. My cash flow replaced my income. I would have kept that job forever, except my boss was a dick. I don't know if you can ever relate. So I quit my job. I started buying more unsexy businesses. My first was a laundromat. And I started stacking ownership because it doesn't have to be glamorous, even though we see it that way. You just stop asking for permission to get ahead and you make the moves that will actually get you ahead. And that shift changed everything in my life. That's actually why I started Mainstream Millionaire Live. It's a way to affordably give you a concentrated education in deal making that took me decades to get. So it's 3 days virtual event where you'll learn how to buy businesses, how to get part of businesses, and you'll steal basically the things they teach you at Harvard Business School, Wharton, and Stanford, but you'll do it 3 days with live deep dives, fireside chats, workshops where we actually do deals live. And I love it because day one is all about deal sourcing. How do you find businesses to buy and invest in? How do you even invest in private market? Day two is financing and negotiation. So how do you get the right deal on that business or that deal that you're going to do? And day three is ownership and scaling. How do you grow that business to its full potential? And what you get are not it's not rah-rah. This isn't just, here to make you feel good. It's to actually do deals live. In 3 days, you'll know more than most people in finance do about doing deals. Will it make you an expert overnight? No. But could you go and do partial deals afterwards? Yeah. In fact, a bunch of people have. Because the purpose of this event is you leave ready to become an owner. Okay, what would Buffett say about all this? Well, Buffett would also say, build durable advantages. So he talks about the key to having a durable advantage is you as a human or you as a business owner, you need moats. So that might mean like brands, cost advantages, skills, assets that you own, networks that you have. These are things that protect you and your profits for decades. Okay, there's this woman called Nguyen Long, and she had been in big tech for most of her career, but she eventually realized relying on one paycheck felt risky to her. She didn't have a business background, but she started exploring these small businesses she could buy. And eventually she landed on pack and ship stores. Simple, physical, not that expensive, money flows up front. It's not going away anytime soon. If anything, it's growing. So she didn't want to run the stores herself. She partnered with a friend and a spouse. They split the responsibilities according to what they were good at. So Nguyen and her partner were finance, systems, tech, pricing. Their business partner ran operations, staffing, and customer work. So that collaboration led them to scale without her needing to quit her W-2. They've bought 6 pack and ship stores across Texas, building a 7-figure portfolio while she used her salary to do it. So here are the big takeaways from her journey. Learn before you buy. Early on, they also missed like great deals because they didn't know what to look for. We call this turning on your reticular activating system. It's your ability to see things around you in a different way. Paying for expert guidance and mentoring, that accelerated her ability to spot winners. So your first investment is always going to be knowledge. Also, what's wild is one good business can teach you what 10 bad ones can't initially. Nguyen and her partners had decided to build a pack and ship store from scratch. Nightmare. I told her not to do it. So they bought a profitable one on top of it, tapped into the knowledge of the sellers, which actually made their startup more profitable. Also, I would say like one of the biggest lessons overall is don't wait for perfect timing. We call this the 50% rule. If you're 50% certain on something, can you get to 51% and then make the jump? So after that first acquisition, Nguyen did not move slow. Over the span of 1 year, she actually bought more and more. And her mentality was simple. You don't take a break from opportunities just to focus on operations unless you absolutely have to. And I think that's right. And so when opportunity knocks, the question is like, how do you answer every time? The other thing that's cool is when you buy businesses, people sell for reasons way beyond just profit. Her and her partners figured this out because we were working through some of her deals. And she was like, if I understood the seller motive more beyond just price, then I can pay less. So the seller sometimes just wants to stop. They want upside. They might want their legacy to continue. They might need to trust you. That's what you have to realize about doing a deal. It's not always the person who has the most cash that wins. One of the other things I think she's told me is like being an owner can make you better at your W-2 job. So instead of distracting, since her business is actually run by her partners, not her, it's sharpened her skills. Now she really thinks like an owner. She has what we call owner mentality. The other thing that's really important though is when you own the business, you got to stay in your own lane. So Nguyen and her partners actually divided the tasks like we talked about. And that meant that nobody was a bottleneck to the business. So she could actually continue to grow and scale because there were clear lanes. One could do daily operations. One could do, focusing on new ideas. One could manage staff and customers. I think one of the smartest decisions that she did early on was that she wasn't quitting her W-2. She worked for a big, huge company. It wasn't a startup where she had to do 1 million hours a week, and she didn't really like her job. And so from the beginning, that constraint was important because it forced her to focus on businesses that she could do while she stayed in. I love this story because it's so real. Warren Buffett advice is really important, but this is advice from a person who's just like you and me, who was, really scared about the riskiness of pegging her financial future to this one AI tech company income stream. And then, we go back to Charlie Munger, who, if you guys don't know, that's Warren Buffett's partner. Charlie was obsessed on simple business models, and I am too. I mean, he would say things like, take a simple idea and take it seriously. Most people dismiss simple businesses because they look boring, but Munger actually made all his billions in the boring. It's not just Munger. Like I have a good friend, Donald, who came and spoke at MSM Live. And he said something really insightful, like the commas and zeros don't matter. He's dealt with restructuring at the federal government level. So that's $37 trillion of debt, which And then he's done deals as small as a couple $100,000. And it doesn't matter. It's all the same. In other words, whether you're negotiating this huge media takeover or trying to put a couple K into a small business, the outcomes are the same. They're just percentage-wise different. Or as Donald put it, there are a lot of great markets that you may not want to be in. There are a lot of great companies that aren't great deals. There are a lot of great deals that aren't great deals for you, but size isn't the thing that matters. That's also what men say, isn't it? Number 8, Munger on why easy businesses win. Munger would say something like, I like businesses where you don't have to be a genius to run them. If a business requires you to be brilliant to survive, it's actually a pretty shitty business. You want to have businesses that can tolerate your risks. I think risks get broken down into 3 buckets. In fact, at MSM Live, Donald was talking about this. Product risk, market risk, and execution risk. When you present a deal to somebody like Donald, one of our members presented a land and boat tour company, and it was located on a remote island. On the surface, it kind of aligned with what they wanted to do, but underneath, it had a lot of risks. Like you have to have had a captain's license required. That's execution risk. It had really high insurance premiums. That's a product risk. It had revenue tied to cruise ship traffic. That's a market risk. And on top of all of those, Ferrari risk, which is the bright, shiny object risk that creeps into deals of all sizes. You say that you want a $400K Ferrari and finally have enough money to buy one. But if somebody offered you that exact same $400K Ferrari, identical performance, identical build, but removed the Ferrari logo and sold it to you for $200K, would you still want it just as much? If yes, great. But if that gives you even one moment of pause, think long and hard about why you're buying it. Because all we care about is the cash flow here of the business, not trying to be sexy. Buffett obsesses on one word more than any other. You guys probably know it. You can tell me in the comments if you do. Incentives. Munger would say, never ever think about something else when you should be thinking about the power of incentives. Any deal, no matter how big or small, is really just a discussion around incentives. You've got a set of incentives. They've got a set of incentives. If you don't understand what theirs are, it's really hard to negotiate a price and term for a deal. We'll see when you come live to the event, most deal breakthroughs come from identifying the incentives of a person across the table from you and removing the blockers. Let's say one of our members was presenting a deal for a local ambulatory surgery center. And so the seller's incentives were kind of interesting. The seller was launching a new business, wanted to focus on that. So the buyer needed to make it clear that they'll have more time to focus on it if they sell. The seller wanted cash from this sale to fund that new business. So the buyer should structure the offer with a little bit of cash earlier if everything checks out. The seller wanted the deal closed this year to offset the capital gains with losses. So the buyer makes it clear they're going to move fast. So if you spot those levers, the buyer can structure a deal that's more likely to close. And if you understand the drivers of price and terms and the incentives, you win. And so if you remember that boat tour business we talked about, the seller actually told me later that he had an offer even better than the other guy, but he didn't take it because he wants to hit the beach, retire, and love freedom. And the other buyer had a bunch of terms that meant he would have to stay there. So you have to actually act on those incentives by negotiating the way the seller wants, not always the way that you do. And one of the things we always got to remember in life, the faster you move, the more money you make. So this is what I would tell the seller too. It's hard to find a buyer for right now, but it's going to be even harder to find a buyer for later. So you got to really take the opportunities in front of you as fast as you humanly can. And so I think the question will be, will someone else want to buy it from you? If so, we got to move quickly. If no, you got to take a break. And because the world is getting crazier and it's getting crazy fast. And in order to win, we have to do a few things very well, very fast. My belief is that this is the year for you to get ownership, even partial ownership. And I am obsessed on how do I get people like you into the game before all of these businesses get eaten up by private equity, before AI takes this asset ownership thing out of the equation. And that's why I hope you come to Main Street Millionaire Live. There's a lot of info here, so I'm just going to leave you with 2 takeaways. In life, if you can expand your luck surface area, meaning you can expand the opportunity for luck to come knock on your door. You can do it by being around other people who want the same things you do. You can do it by being unreasonable and taking action when most people weren't. And you can do it by actually realizing that if you start to invest in the life you want, you end up getting lucky because the assets start going on sale. And you know what's cool? If you already know what you want to buy and you know what you want to invest in, when things go on sale, you actually know that you were looking for them all along. So come to Main Street Millionaire Live. Don't stress too much about this market going crazy. As long as you're moving fast, taking action, and getting into the ownership game, I think we're still going to beat the robots. Okay, if you liked this episode and you want to learn more about asset ownership, about investing, I got another episode for you. It's episode number 61. It's the 7 worst businesses to buy or start. I'm going to help you get into this game of ownership. Also, if you guys like this episode, share it with somebody else. That's the only way the show grows. And we all want our friends to be like rich and hanging out in assets together, don't we? You know, I think it's more fun. We are sitting on a generational wealth creation event. If you're here, this means you're a builder. As we're going through these next 3 days, I want you to know that the American dream starts with you guys. Buy our little Main Street revolution.
And then I just want to give you guys permission to take a leap of faith.
If I knew then what I know now, I would probably do bigger deals.
It's given us an extra layer of security that we never would have had.
I am so excited to introduce you to some ordinary people doing extraordinary things.
We have to really take the time to make a meaningful connection. It's the fact that there is a lack of connection and the person just wants to be seen, heard, and understood.
Thanks for taking the question.
Are there extra things that need to be done when trying to pay off bad debt?
Great question.
I buy businesses so simple, even your grandmother understands them. That's the game.
It's you and me versus the problem. We're going to try to solve this together.
I know how to build trust in a very advanced way.
How does buying a business fit into the vision for your life?
Today, my goal is to teach you some fundamental skills that you can use to accelerate your business.
If you make a promise in the mirror, know that your word is freaking iron to you.
These people on Wall Street, they want to keep the normal people out of the game.
Main Street Millionaires are all around this world, and it starts with each and every one of you. What are you waiting for? Your path to ownership starts now. Get your ticket to join us on Main Street. Join us today. There is so much. If you think it, you will get it. But I still don't think it's going to fix everything for me.
No. I mean, listen, whatever you think about consistently, you tend to manifest in your life. But there are other things beyond just that one force of what you want. To think otherwise is think you're the center of the universe, which is absurd to me. So you're saying the law of attraction is bullshit? I said, no, law of attraction is real. It's one of dozens of laws. And you're saying that's the whole game?
I'm sitting down with the iconic Tony Robbins, modern day philosopher, author. If you're sick of the platitudes and the manifesting and unable to build a tactical, sustainable daily approach to improving your life, today's episode is for you. Stop creating flimsy New Year's resolutions. Change your life for real today with me. So many people feel like they can't say the thing that might actually help because it might hurt somebody's feelings.
Where did we get up this thing that you're not supposed to offend anybody? If you're not going to offend anybody, you're not going to have any impact. Sometimes you got to do what's uncomfortable. Otherwise, you're just making yourself feel good. I can make myself feel good and go, gosh, that's so horrible. I understand. And F that. Some part of you wants transformation or you wouldn't be in my presence. And it's going to happen. We all tell ourselves stories about things. Our narrative of our life controls our life more than anything else. So you have to divorce your limitations and marry the truth of your unlimited ability.
What are the biggest lies that we are told because it seems nice instead of true today? Okay, I want to talk about a million things with you. I've been so excited to have this conversation.
Great to have you.
Thanks for taking the time. I want to talk about a thing that I used to think was touchy-feely. And then actually you were one of the first guys that made me realize you could have all the tools, all the tactics, all the metrics. But if you don't have your mind right, none of it'll work.
Right.
And one of the things that I love about you is you've beaten into my mind that peak performance starts with mindset.
Yes.
And that is not actually a touchy-feely thing. But you've also hinted that in some ways, there's something that comes before mindset. And why is the order of that so important?
This actually came because this is going to be my 49th year. I've traveled the earth at a really unique time. I've been in every single major country in the world. I have clients in every country of the world. So 193 countries, give you an idea. Wow. And so after a while, you recognize patterns. And one of the patterns that I began to recognize is what creates a breakthrough. Because I'm interested not in just managing something or making it better. I want to scale something. I want to see it grow. Mm-hmm. Or a breakthrough in your personal life. Same thing. Somebody's going along and they try to change, don't follow through, try to change, don't follow through, beat themselves up. Like, what is the difference between the person who beat themselves up and the time when he or she finally broke through? And what I found is there's actually 3 elements to it. And the reason most people fail to have a breakthrough, I experience, is that they go after them in the wrong sequence. It's kind of like if you know the right numbers to a vault and you put them in the wrong order, you don't get the treasure, right? Yep. Same thing with your phone number. You don't reach the person. So I'll give you the 3 S's to a breakthrough. The first one is not the most valuable one. It's the first one people go for. It's strategy. Now, for you and I, strategy seems like the most natural thing to go for. If I want to achieve something, how do I do it? That's the number one question, right? But the problem with asking, how do I do it, is if you've never done it before, most people then go into what I call the tyranny of how. The tyranny of how is like, have you ever done this? Set a goal, maybe when you're really young. I'm going to do this. You maybe even told people you're going to do this, and this voice in your head goes, who are you kidding, right? Yeah. Because what happens is you start to doubt because you have no reference base. You have no experience. And so when you're uncertain, you don't follow through. You look at a peak performer, what makes them a peak performer, if you watch them going down that court in the NBA or NFL or whatever sport it may be, you feel this relentless energy. There's not an ounce of hesitancy. There's absolute certainty. That doesn't guarantee success, but it increases the probability through the roof. When you focus on something you know how to do, the doubts show up. And then the second thing that happens is, I'll give you an example. Let's take a simplistic piece. 70% of Americans are overweight, right? We're the fattest country in the history of the world. We're infecting every other country with our dietary patterns, and people around the world are getting more and more ill. But is the secret to being fit and healthy like so complex that you only need super intelligent people to understand? Is it that it costs so much to learn that technology? Is it special only for the 0.1% of the population? No, the strategy of how to be fit and healthy, there's a million different strategies. There's not even just one. And they'll all work to a certain extent. Some are better than others, obviously. So it's not a strategy problem. Now, it's possible. I remember it's about 15 years ago, Time Magazine had the cover of the magazine. It was the Atkins diet. And they said 14% of Americans are on the Atkins diet. Well, if you're on the Atkins diet, hopefully you woke up at some point and went, if anything makes my breath smell this bad and I got to pee on a stick so I got so much acid in my body, probably is not sustainable. But everybody did it. It worked for a short time. They went and did the piece to make it work. So some people did have the wrong strategy, but the real problem is the second S. I'm moving backwards in order of importance, meaning strategy is the least important, even though I consider myself a strategist. I know the right strategy could save you 10 years in your business. The right strategy could save you months in terms of turning your weight around or transforming a relationship. It could be minutes, right, if you have the right strategy. But people don't use the strategy because the second S gets in the way, which is their story. The story, we all tell ourselves stories about things. Our narrative of our life controls our life more than anything else. And all the story is a set of beliefs. And beliefs are nothing but things we've told ourselves over and over again with so much certainty that now we believe them. Like, for example, for yourself, if I can ask, can you think of any belief you may have had 10, 15 years ago that back then you would have fought for that belief, but today you're almost embarrassed you had that belief?
Yes.
Right? Most people can. So the fact that you believe it doesn't mean it's true. It just means you're certain. And so most people have certainty about what won't work. So let's take the example of fitness again. So why you ask that person who's 35 pounds overweight, how come you're overweight? Well, I've tried, what will they say? I've tried
everything.
That's right, everything. And I look at them and I say, with all due respect, you haven't tried everything. Yes, I have. I've tried thousands of things. Okay, name them. And then they'll go, well, I've tried, hundreds of things. Name them. Well, I've tried these 2 things that don't work over and over again is what it'll come down to, right? And they call that everything, right? So the story keeps them to do it. You're not in a relationship. You don't have a relationship. You say you want one. Why aren't you in one? Well, the good ones are all taken. They're gone. Or they're gay and I'm not. Or I'm gay and they're not, right? It's not true. It's just not true. But the story controls what you're willing to do or not do because it's a belief, and beliefs control actions, right? So even if you have the right strategy, if your story doesn't support it, have you ever been with somebody and you were, let's say, trying to help them and you've got lots of skill. And so you're showing, hey, here's what you can do to take on small businesses and build a real mini empire for yourself, right? And you can do it with businesses people aren't competing you for, and you can earn great cash flow, and it's not sexy, but it's very successful. Well, let me show you how. And you can put all that in front of them and they're just like, no, it's like, no, that's not going to happen. It just won't work for me. You say, no, look, I can show you. I've done it. No, it doesn't work for me. And the more you push on them, then they get more irritated. And the reason they're irritated is they want to hang on to their story because the deepest fear everybody has, everyone has. Kings I've dealt with and queens, Academy Award winners, Grammy winners, winners of the NFL, the greatest players in history. Everybody has a fear at some point that they're not enough. Not rich enough, not smart enough, not funny enough, not attractive enough, not playful enough, not something enough. And the deeper fear we have is that we're not enough, we won't be loved. And love is really, it's like the heartbeat of the soul, right? It's the essence, it's the oxygen of your soul. So people come up with a story so they can explain it's not that I'm not enough, it's just I have ADHD. Well, so did, Sir Richard Branson. He's done quite well, right? Don't confuse me with the facts. So the story, no matter how good and clear the strategy, and you do a fantastic job, I want to say on the air, I went through your book and I just thought you've made it so clear for people. And I would be doing this myself if I wasn't already as advanced as I've done in terms of size of businesses. If I was looking to start, it's a great way to do it. And in fact, I remembered it now. When I was really like 18, I went to a guy's course called Bizarre Financing. And it was all about how to build these small businesses, right? But I think you've done a more thorough job. But the point is, they're not going to do it if they don't have the right belief structure, right? So you have to divorce your limitations and marry the truth of your unlimited ability. Now, some people get a divorce and then they go visit their divorcee on a regular basis. It's not a good idea. You have to just cut it off and no longer go there. You have to tap into the truth. As corny as it sounds, the truth will set you free. But for most people, they don't have someone to really do that to them. That's what I do. I create environments where that happens. But there is something before that. And that is the first S, the one you should start with, but most people rarely even get to. And that is your state. If you're going to have a breakthrough, it comes from your state. You can think of that as energy, vitality, strength, mental energy, mental fitness, right? All that really means is your mental, emotional state affects the way you perceive everything in life. Have you ever been pissed off at somebody and then you suddenly can remember everything that they ever did that pissed you off?
Of course not, never.
Right? So, and when you're in love, what's wrong with life if you fall totally in love?
Not a damn thing.
Nothing's wrong with it. It's where we're broken, doesn't matter, we're in love, right? So your state controls your story. Your story and your state control whether you do anything. If no one showed you how to get the strategy, you'd figure out the strategy. You'd find the way, you'd make the way with the right state. So all the work I've done most of my life, I realized was start with a state, because everywhere else you're starting, you're paying, you could teach them the best tools in the world. They won't follow through. If I start with a story, it's easy to shift their belief, and then I can teach them the tools. But if you don't do it in that order, people get very, very frustrated. If you do it in that order, it becomes very, very easy. Like, for example, think about this. Somebody says to you, okay, I know, I got to go on a diet. I got to exercise. I'm going to do it. I'm really going to do it. Is it going to happen?
No.
It's not going to happen in a million years because the state they're in. Most people are trying to get themselves to do something. And what they don't understand is what you do is based on your state. And what do you think is harder, for example, dieting or fasting?
Dieting.
Yes, very much so.
Absolutism. Because fasting is absolute. You just don't do it.
That's
Dieting is like a rule by attrition.
It's like, have this? No, I'm having water. That's nothing, right?
Yeah.
So if you get to that place, that mindset, which is total resolve, that's what it takes to fast. In a state of resolve, it's easy. When you're dieting, you're saying, well, could I do that? What if I could do that? You're negotiating. Negotiation with yourself makes you weak. So the right state, you'll get the right behavior, you'll get the right story, and you'll find the right strategies. And so my focus is first there. Now I still do all three, but that's where I go first.
That's so good. It was funny because I was talking to some of our mutual friends, and one of them was like, you should ask him something that you need to change, like get a little vulnerable.
Sure.
And I was like, oh, God, he's seen all the things. I remember watching I Am Not Your Guru back in the day. And you're just like, a woman's life. I don't know what sort of crazy Tony Robbins magic, but you just like magicked her. And I thought about it. I'm a pretty disciplined individual in a lot of ways. But for instance, like small things, this time of year, like I will say, no, I'm definitely not having multiple glasses of red wine and that bread. And then I will do it. But in your mind, the formula, does it just go absolutes? So like, is my next step just, okay, Cody, no red wine ever, no bread, or I have to say it when I'm jumping on a trampoline, or I have to say it when I'm excited. Like, how do I tactically change that?
You need stronger reasons, honey. You don't have strong enough reasons to follow through. So you have reasons in the moment. It's like decision making. Why are most people supposed to make a decision and then they don't follow through? That used to fascinate me too. And what I began to realize is a couple things. Number one, most people don't make a lot of decisions. So they have kind of weak decision-making muscles. I don't know if you've ever been around somebody at dinner at a restaurant, and there's a person who's always the last one, and they still can't decide. And the waiter or waitress is about to lose it, and then they finally decide, right?
Yes, I never hire them. That's actually
No, you never hire them in a million years. However, The reason they're not making a decision is they want to make the right decision always. They want to do the right thing. But perfection doesn't exist. It's just not there. So if you look at decision making, I remember I met General Norman Schwarzkopf, who did the original Desert Storm group. And I remember asking him, we were talking about leadership and what's the most important thing in leadership. And he said, decision making. And I said, well, how do you make tough decisions? He goes, that's what you're paid for. Any idiot can make the easy decision. What makes you a leader is big decisions. Yeah. He said, but to get those big decisions done, you have to have strong enough reasons to follow through or it won't happen. And he says, if you don't come up with the reasons, the decision doesn't last. And he told me a story I'll never forget. He said that he was a private working for a general. And the general was one of the most powerful. I think he was a 4-star general, a 3-star general at the Pentagon. And very influential man, to say the least. And Pentagon had wrestled with a strategic decision for the Pentagon as a whole for almost 10 years. And they had people that argued on both sides pretty powerfully, so much so that no one could decide. And so they set a date where they're going to finally make a decision no matter what, and the general's going to make it. And so Schwarzkopf was the private, and he had 5 other guys. Their job was to accumulate all this information from both sides, which he said literally filled almost half a room, and try to bring that down to like 6 binders. The general could go through and really understand both sides of the issue. Well, as they're doing the collation, trying to go through this, which they were completely behind, he said he was getting so scared. And then the general was called out with an emergency, and he had to leave and didn't come back until literally the night before the decision-making process. And so he has no preparatory materials. And he said, I didn't know what the hell to do. I gave the general stuff, but I knew he couldn't possibly do it. He couldn't resolve these. Should I cancel the meeting? He said, no, bring the meeting. He had the meeting. He said, okay, give me side number 1. He said, you have 20 minutes. Give me side number 2, you have 20 minutes. And when they're done, they stood up and he said, do that one. And they all went, yes, General. And they saluted and left the room. But the story's interesting part was Schwarzkopf, as a private, is thinking, he couldn't possibly know what was the right decision to make that decision. This is insane. And he was so stressed about it that he worked up all his courage, knocked on the general's door, and said, permission to speak freely, sir. He goes, at ease. He goes, General, I know you couldn't possibly review the materials. We couldn't even get you all the materials that are there. You just made a decision that determines the direction of the Pentagon. No one can make that decision for 10 years. You just did it. He goes, that's right. When put in command, take charge. He said, make a decision. He goes, but General, you didn't have enough information. He goes, there was too much information. He said, both sides have been arguing for 10 years. Here's what I know. Whatever decision I made, it'll be right, it'll be wrong. If it's wrong, we'll find out quicker. It won't take us 10 years, and we can change our approach. If it's right, we'll be on the right track, and we'll move forward immediately. Wow. Decisions need to be made. And I thought, what a great approach, right? So later I started studying, and I was like, I think decisions have 3 parts. So when you go do yours, you decide not to drink or decide to drink only so many of these elements or drinks, right? A decision can feel a little bit like a war. I'm going to do this. I get myself to do this, all right, I'm going to do it, right? But it's a 3-part process, and that's what people don't understand. If you decide that's all you do, you're making a decision in the moment. You meant it when you made that decision to yourself. Wouldn't you say?
Sure.
Yeah. So what happened? Later on, you're in a different environment, right? You've not taken the moment and pushed it into the future. What takes that moment, pushed it in the future is if while you're in that moment, you did something that commits you to follow through, where there are consequences if you didn't, significant consequences, right? And that's what the general does, right? So you look at this and go, okay, I say I'm going to do this, but do I got enough reasons? Is this really that important to me? Because if it's not, I want to bullshit myself. I'm not here to lie to myself. If I'm really going to do it, then here's my absolute commitment for the next 30 days. And this is what it costs me if it doesn't, right? And this is what I get. This is why I want to do it. So it's not just a moving away from approach. But I always tell people, never leave the site of making a decision without doing something that commits you to follow through later on. Because you're going to be in a different state again, right? And you're going to make a different decision in that different state at that party that's there. But there's a 3rd step that most people never get to. It's resolve. So think about, what does it mean to you to decide? Tell me what it means to you to decide. What's that feeling when you decide?
It's forward momentum.
Okay.
It's a choice
what does it mean
on path,
to commit?
To not go back. It's there's an anti instead of a
That's right.
A pro.
Now you put a line in the sand that's beyond just this moment. And you've taken what's in the moment, taken it forward. What does it mean to you to resolve?
Like, no matter what we're going to do, we're going to execute on this.
That's right. Resolve means it's already done. You say something is resolved, it's already done. It's done in you, so it's going to be done in the world. And what resolve brings an interesting emotion. Decision-making can be a little battle. Commitment can feel like having to use some force. But resolve brings peace. And then it's like, even if things don't go the way I want, even if it changes here or there, I've resolved this is how it is. So I want you to think of a decision you've made that you did keep your word on. That was a difficult decision. Because the alcohol one's not that difficult, right? I bet you've had some much more difficult decisions you've kept.
Definitely.
Can you tell me one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm divorced and remarried. So I remember when I was going through my divorce, or when I was going through my not so happy marriage the first time, I couldn't make a decision on doing it. And so I said, I'm going to put a date on a calendar. And by that date, I will have done the actions I think will, go to therapy, have lots of conversations, attempt to resolve it.
Yeah.
But if I can't, that will be my date. And by then I will tell him and we will commit.
So listen to what your language is in it. You decided, and in that day you decided, you also committed. You committed to what had to happen in the future by a certain date, by a certain time, and what was going to occur.
Yeah.
Did you get to resolve?
I did.
When did resolve happen? Did it happen that day or later?
No, it happened that day.
So did you feel, what did you feel inside when you resolved it?
Peace.
Peace.
Sadness, but peace.
Yeah, I understand. Ending something is always sad, but
yeah.
One of the rules of life that most people are upset about that they don't take, it's a given in life, is everything ends, right? Everything changes. But my view is, and something new begins, right? It's like the call. It's the call of adventure when, the hero's journey, it's there. So I think you either have to decide and commit, ideally resolve, or not kid yourself about it because it may not be that important to you.
Yeah, that's a great point.
It's like you might be doing, virtue signaling to yourself. It doesn't sound like you told anybody else, but that's people do that too. They don't just virtue signal stupidly on social media. They do it to themselves.
Yeah, it's fascinating you say that. My husband is a former Navy SEAL, and so he is so committed to his word.
He knows how to commit and resolve.
He does. And one thing that he's taught me lately that has helped the last couple of years is if we make a decision and we are committed to it, he does a thing that now I have a word for it, I guess, which is this idea of commitment and resolve. He'll say, like, for instance, we had something we wanted to do, and he was like, okay, well, what are you going to do if you don't hit that goal?
That's it.
And I said, I don't know. What do you want me to do? What's on the table? We put in cash and put it. And he was like, that's not big enough. And he's like, it not only has to be cash, which would bother you, but something that would bother you so much that you're not going to execute.
That's right.
And so he's like, so if you don't execute on this, we're going to write a check. And on the check, you're going to put $10,000 and you're going to say, Democratic Socialist Party of America. And if you don't do this, I'm sending the check with your name on it and you're going to be on the donor list. And I was like, oh no, now I'm really in it and I have to commit to this. And so now I have a framework. But it's, what's fascinating about you is these little small things in life aren't so small. They accumulate to everything in life. It's this compounding effect.
Decision-making, I think, is one of the top 5 skills in life.
What are the other 4?
I wouldn't lock them in. I'd say managing your state is one of the most important. I think how to build relationships is certainly one of the most important. Your capacity to create a vision for your life is extremely important. Moving from being a manager to a creator is extremely important. Most people are managing their lives. They're making a living. They're not designing their life. Or, even in business, part of what helps you grow in business is when you stop becoming a manager. Managers always want to know techniques. And by the way, I have plenty of techniques I've learned over the years, but I'm much more interested at this stage of my life in what is behind the technique that makes somebody follow through, right? Techniques are cute and they might work, but then eventually the technique becomes your new toy that will become your new limitation, right? So I think it's important to look for what's behind it all. If you shift what's behind it all, you shift everything, right? That's my focus.
Do you ever not keep promises to yourself now?
That's a great question. Yes, there's one that I've not kept to myself. To be honest, it's the only one I can think of. I don't know that I promised myself, honestly, that's the truth. And that is, I'd slow my schedule down.
You're not keeping that. I know that for a fact.
No, you can tell by my voice. No, I've not kept that promise. But honestly, it's like, I got a phone call last night from a dear friend of mine, and he's got a friend that's suicidal in the middle of the night. And it's like, I get these calls every day. Somebody's got, cancer, somebody's got whatever. And I have such a database of businesses and relationships, in the health area and the relationship area and the business area and the finance area and the emotional well-being area that I find myself called. And so then I end up being up for 2.5 hours to help this stranger not do those things. And so what my wife and I are going to have a meeting this next week, and I'm going to have to take it from decide to commit to resolve, because I think I decided, but I didn't really commit and resolve because I'm so called.
Yeah.
That's the thing too. It's like people have different ways of motivating themselves. I've never been a motivator. I don't even like the term. Motivation is a good thing. It's like a warm bath or shower. You should probably have one every day, but it's not enough, right? You need strategy. You need follow through. But what I'm really interested in is like, what's deeper than that? What's the inner drive in that? And when I look around at what's happening in people's lives and I say, what? You can think of it as this way. You can think of there's like, let's say, pull motivation and push motivation. Push is what most people use. I'm going to push myself through and I'm going to make this happen. Well, that takes enormous, I would say, inner strength. And you clearly have that. I clearly have that. Inner drive. But everybody's only got so much of that, right? What's unlimited is pull motivation, pull drive. That's something that is something you care about more than yourself, so much more than yourself, that it's not effortful. It gives you an energy that's also almost feels superhuman to other people. And it's because this is what you're made for. And when you find that, it's been said before, the two most important days of your life are the day that you're born and the day you discover what you're born for, right? I know what I'm born for. And so changing that in my life and saying, I'm not going to do that, I have to find somewhere in between the two. I have to find what I am willing to commit to in that process. Well, that's interesting. My first response in my head was, no, of course I keep my word to myself for everything. And that probably still is true because my word to myself is I will always show up when it matters most for people.
Wow. Yeah, you almost have like a higher priority than you've even realized above the sub priority.
Yeah.
Well, it's so timely because you're having an event in January and I really wanted to I was going to go to your last event and we're in the mix of all this fertility stuff. And so
I understand.
It's one of the first times where I haven't been able to keep my word as often as I'm used to other people. And it's out of my control for the first time.
I understand.
Owning a business is incredible until a slip-on site or a pissed-off client or a tiny mistake turns into a very expensive problem. If you're not covered, that can actually wipe out months, even years of work. That's why smart owners use Next Insurance. It's coverage built specifically for small businesses, all online, all instant. So no paperwork, no waiting, no corporate runaround nonsense. Whether you run a cleaning crew, a fitness studio, or a business you bought on Main Street, Next keeps you protected so you can keep building. Taking risk is part of the game. Being protected is how you win it. Head to nextinsurance.com/Codie and check them out. I love the idea of this event because, new year, new you. There are all these things around this time of year.
Yes.
But we don't actually keep our promises to ourselves for the most part. And one of the ways that I, in the beginning, maybe thought of you was like, oh, it's positive thinking. We have to positive think. And that is actually the opposite.
No, I don't even believe him. I don't believe in negative thinking. It doesn't help you. I believe you need to find what's true. And I don't believe you should go to your garden and there's weeds there, so you chant, there's no weeds, there's no weeds, there's no weeds. It's like, no, reach down and grab the weeds, right? You got to see what's real. You got to see it as is, but also not see it worse than it is. Most people see it worse than it is because they're afraid of failing, so then they don't try, right? And then you got to see it better than it is because without a vision, people perish, right? You have to have a vision. And then you got to make it that way. And that's where the strategy comes in, right? So that's how I look at it. But no, I've never been into positive thinking per se. When they did the Secret, they came to me to be part of Secret. I said, I will not participate in a million years. This is bullshit. They said, so you're saying the law of attraction is bullshit? I said, no, law of attraction is real. It's one of dozens of laws. And you're saying that's the whole game? And I remember this guy was saying, yeah, but I was coming here to talk with you about this. And he said, and I was running late and I thought green, green, green. And I got all green lights. I said, well, what's going to happen when you're coming to see me and you get all red lights? You're going to say you're thinking about it? Are you telling me some person who was in Alcatraz was there, or not Alcatraz, but in Germany, in a concentration camp, that they were just a negative thinker? Sometimes not getting what you want is what the universe or God wants for you. So you develop lessons, skills, muscles, strengths, caring that you wouldn't have had without it. So it's not just that. There's other things like capabilities. There's like skill sets. You can't do that. So I was revolted against that. And I watched it go like this and of course crash, because everybody wants the oversimplistic view of life, but they won't get you results. Just thinking positive is not going to do it. Thinking negative will certainly hurt your life, but that's not the full gig.
No matter how bad I want it, if I go try to one-on-one you on that basketball court, I don't think I'm winning. You got like just a tiny few inches more than I do. But it's important because these days I live in Austin, Texas, and there is so much, if you think it, you will get it. And if you rub this crystal, I brought a crystal, I like a crystal, but I still don't think it's going to fix everything for me.
No. I mean, listen, I think thoughts are real, and whatever you think about consistently, you tend to manifest in your life. But there are other things beyond just that one force of what you want. And to think otherwise is think you're the center of the universe, which is absurd to me, right? If that was true, why wouldn't we just get whatever we want immediately? Well, because you'd be spoiled rotten, you wouldn't care about anything or anyone. I mean, think about it. When you were born, what'd you have to do to be loved?
Nothing.
Nothing. Scream, yell, go to the bathroom in your pants, throw up all over your mom or your dad. You're still loved, right? But there was a day when that stopped. And that's the day that fear entered your body. That's the day you try to figure out what to do so you would, because you know to survive, you need love. Love is where someone puts their needs aside for yours, right? And as humans, we're like different than other animals. Some animals, there's an egg, you crack, and you never see your mother and father, but you have some competitive advantage. You have horns, you have teeth, you have camouflage, right? Our competitive advantage is love. And so our capacity to feel that caring allows us to connect, allows us to work with others, allows us to expand beyond what other people can possibly do. And so I look at it and say, okay, if this is our capacity, why is it that we have this unconditional love in the beginning and that everybody pursues it for the rest of their life and rarely feels it? Because if you're unconditional love forever, you'd never grow. You'd never bring anything to the world. It would all be about me, 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 just like ridiculous. So you have to grow up and realize life's not about you, it's about we. And the more you contribute, the better. Business is a spiritual game. It's a perfect example. Every religion on earth has some version of love thy neighbor like thyself. Different versions of it, but a version of that principle within it, right? Karma, whatever you want to call it. When you fall in love with your client, not just fall in love with your customer, your product or service, that's going to change. Fall in love with your client and you're trying to do everything you can to meet their needs. And you turn them into a raving fan and you love on them and you think constantly about meeting their needs like a mom does their kid or like a best friend does for somebody they really care about. You're going to grow in business. You're going to grow anything that you do. But we're not meant to just have unconditional love because then we wouldn't grow, right? We need to grow. We need to expand. And so otherwise, all these stupid thoughts like, oh, I'm just going to think and it's going to happen to be there. Plus, if you went to Vegas, what's the worst thing to happen if you go to Vegas?
Well, in this case, maybe lose all your money.
No, the worst thing that can happen is win.
Oh, interesting. Of course.
Yes.
Then you think you're skilled.
Steve Wynn's a good friend of mine. He built most of Las Vegas.
So he disagrees.
I was with him one day and this guy won a $10 million jackpot. And Steve is a very tight guy in finance, right? Very tight guy. Like he knows what every, one of his retailers is doing and he wants the maximum dollar for each one. And Louis Vuitton wasn't paying him enough. He'd get very upset. I'm like, you're doing quite fine, right? He says, no, I want to. But when a person won, I saw none of that. So I finally said, Steve, usually you're pretty uptight about something like that. He goes, no, Tony, don't you know? You see all the people around him, see all the pictures. That guy will come back for the rest of his life, but so all these other people. He goes, the odds are my odds. He goes, that makes me money. I'm in it for the long game. That's how it works here. But if you went to Vegas and let's say you pulled one of those Warren bandits and you get the jackpot, what was your response going to be?
Sweet.
Awesome. Yeah. Second time.
Probably less excited, but still excited.
100 times every time you get the same victory. Now it's called a job.
That's fascinating.
Right? So we need jackpots in our life to make us feel alive. If you got everything you wanted every moment, you'd be bored out of your mind.
It's such a good point. What's interesting about you is, I think a lot of people struggle with people pleasing, right? And, maybe they try to do things that other people think will make them likable. Yeah. You seem to do the opposite. Like you are so comfortable pushing buttons, saying hard truths, and at least what I've seen publicly, kind of pushing people out of their comfort zone. And I know
they don't do that till they first know how much I care. I earned that right. They see that. I don't just come in like a jerk and go this, because
no, I don't think really you come off that way. But I think that's scary for people, even though scary. I do believe a lot of times that's what we need. We need like Chris, my husband calls it a benevolent bully, somebody to push you like you need it. Yeah. Have you always been like that? Or how did you learn to push people the way they needed to? No, I was more of a pleaser growing up. Everyone has a dominant force in their life. My mom was the dominant force. And she was, I had 4 different fathers. So she was the dominant force, as you might guess. She was quite a force of nature, got rid of them one after another. And I learned to please her, or I was quite physical with her. And I was 5'1" in high school. And then even when I grew 10 inches in a year, I learned to bend my hair down so she could grab my hair and smack me against the wall. She was a beautiful woman. I don't want to give you the wrong impression. She was as loving as you could be, but she abused, alcohol and prescription drugs. And when you put those two together, you become a different personality. So I had to work out in my head, how do you deal with someone whose love you crave the most,
who's trying to harm you, but loves you, And so rather than go through the whole victim bullshit, there's not any part of me that's ever been a victim. It's like, okay, she's wired with pain and I got to figure out how to, basically I became a practical psychologist because of her. I had to figure out how to manage her states, her emotions, so I could protect my younger brother's 5 years younger, the younger sister 7 years younger. And I got really good at it, as I had to be. But then also with women in my life and relationship, in the beginning, I was all pleasing all the time, which is a woman I'm sure you know. It's probably why you married a Navy SEAL. Having a pleaser doesn't please a woman.
No.
Men are confused by that. They're like, she wants me to please him. Yes, she wants to be pleased, but she doesn't want you to be a pleaser. What the F does that mean, right? So I learned that lesson. But even during that time, when I stood up to serve someone, I'm there to serve someone. Yeah. So if I will, at the end of an intervention, you saw, I'm not your guru. There was a moment there where I was working with a young woman who was part of this cult where they raped children and said it was for God. And, she was in such a horrible place. And so I did this work and it's like, I feel like God comes through me in those moments. I'm not trying to be overly dramatic, but as you say, it looks like magic and it's different every time. And so afterwards, this group pushed on the door. And I was like, after those things are done, very often I can't show any emotion then because I'm there with them. If I fully feel what they're feeling, I can't help them, but I am feeling it inside. I put it in a box. And then I go to the back room there and then I just start bawling for what this woman has been through. Just even thinking now it makes me emotional thinking about it. And the guys that were doing the show said, no, we had to have direct access. And they opened the doors and you see me there crying. And, but it's because, this is what I'm made for. It's like, I hate suffering. I hate to see anyone suffer. And so I am unbelievably committed to end suffering any way I can. But I also know my own suffering will not help that person who's suffering. Mm-hmm. So I need a call to a higher part of them. Mm-hmm. And I can do it in multiple ways. I can do it with humor, I can do it with intensity, I can do it with fun, I can do it being weird, but I will find the way to get them there. And it's different every time. And that's my art. That's where you can call it the universe. I call it God comes through you because you're trying to serve something more than yourself. Mm-hmm. You get different insights. If you're just trying to serve yourself, you get a certain level of insight. If you've got a family you care about, you're trying to serve your family, you get a different level of insight, Trying to serve, a community, the world. I don't mean virtue signaling bullshit. I mean, what's in your heart. The level of insights that are given to me that I can't possibly know about a person while they're standing there. Like people think there's a script backstage or people come up, even the guys who are filming, they went and do you have an earpiece or something? And I was like, what are you talking about? They came and literally checked to see if I had an earpiece. Like, how could you know that about her? And I was like, I just knew, I just knew immediately. So the emotion I go through is enormous. It's not like I'm just cold and this is how it is. And usually by the end of it, the person feels very loved and very taken care of. They have the breakthrough that they're looking for. But, I had this conversation with Oprah one day. Women are so abused by our society. When I say abused, I don't want to just be derogatory, but, women are put in this image of who they're supposed to look like, be like, act like. Mm. And women to me are unbelievable. You're about to be a mom. There's another part of you that'll come alive when you're a mom. It's unbelievable what women do. How their kids don't know it and don't understand it is mind-boggling to me. But to be a mom and a business person and to be a lover and to be a husband or wife and all those things at one time, it takes just unbelievable energy, strength, and so forth. And when I see what happens with women generalizing about themselves, like I'm just a homemaker or something, makes me crazy. Mm. But the one thing women have, if a woman isn't super attractive, is they have support. Men don't have that. Men don't go share their feelings. We don't go talk about our relationships, right? I remember we were having a program in Mexico and this woman was saying, you were with your friend and he got divorced and you don't know if he's dating, He says, we played golf. And she goes, and it didn't come up? He goes, how would it come up? And she was just like stunned because she thinks how a woman would think versus how a man's brain would think, right? Mm. And so I say this because I was telling Oprah, I said, one of the beautiful things about the sisterhood, if a woman's really attractive, sometimes there's backbiting and there's the opposite. There's not the support. There's just tremendous support. Women share their problems. Mm-hmm. Men don't share their problems. Men's job is to solve a problem. And then you get with a woman in your life and you want to solve it for them. In the man's world, the more you solve problems, the more you move up the hierarchy of being a man. In a woman's world, no, you share your problems so you can connect and feel for the person, right? And you want to stay with it and so forth. So what happens with that is it's actually good for a feeling of support, but it does not create breakthroughs. Because women will support other women in terrible beliefs, terrible states, terrible. They have a terrible relationship, and they talk to 2 other women who have a terrible relationship about what they should do in the relationship. And it's all him. It's no matter how thin you slice it, there's 2 sides. There's him and there's you, right?
Yep.
And so I was doing an event one time for 5,000 women in Radio Music Hall for Oprah. It was all women. I never heard that high a pitch of sounds in my entire life in one room. And she said, okay, well, I want you to do an intervention like this. I said, well, Oprah, interventions can take 15 minutes. They can take an hour. I go and tell, it can take 2 hours. She goes, well, we don't have that. I said, I know, and you're doing this program live. She goes, well, I think you could do it in the timeline. And I said, okay, but I said, I also have to be willing to do whatever it takes. She goes, of course. And I already had this conversation with her about, you can't support women just in their limitations. If you really care about them, you got to call truth 100%. With them. You can still be supportive. And so this woman stands up and she talks about how she's lost her business because of 9/11, and she's not been able to build it because of her husband and her kids. And she's 110 pounds overweight. And it's because they all demand something from her every moment. Now, I'm a lover of women. Like, I think women are, no man on this planet got here without a woman. I mean, through women who risk their life for you to be here. That's my core belief about women. I hold women like this. But this is bullshit, right? I got plenty of friends that had, in the building 9/11, their business didn't go under. So it's not 9/11 that did it, right? And your husband didn't make you 110 pounds overweight, nor did your children. And so everything she's saying is a lie. And the women around her are like, ooh. I'm surrounded by 5,000 women. I go, F it, I can't do this. I can't not do this. I said, now, what you just told me is total, absolute bullshit. And the whole room went, it was like shock. And then there's sounds, and I'm like, I'm not being mean. But if you want transformation, if you want to change your life, you cannot do it by blaming everybody else for what you've done. 9/11 is a horrific thing. I'm sure it massively interrupted your business. But she wasn't even in the building. She wasn't even close to the building. I said, this is not why your business went under. You're making excuses. And I'm saying this because I care. Excuses will only hurt you. And right now, you don't have a relationship with your husband, clearly, by the way you're talking about. You don't even have a relationship with your kids. And that's another reason why you're probably 110 pounds overweight. You're bearing your emotion with food, right? And then all of a sudden, there started to be some sounds. And then Oprah says, and she's behind me about, like 50 yards. It's a giant building, right? She goes, but Tony, to be fair, and I snapped back and I looked at her like this. I'll never forget, because I was in state. When I'm in state, you don't break my state, right? And she goes, oh, I'm doing that thing, aren't I? And I said, yes, you're doing that thing, right? So I had to go to a break, and I just kept working with her. By the time I was done, I brought her back and got her in a great place. And a year later, she was on Dr. Oz. She lost 115 pounds. She had a relationship back. She'd restarted a new business, right? So sometimes you got to do what's uncomfortable. And so, yes, I'm willing to do that to have someone's life change, because otherwise you're just making yourself feel good. I can make myself feel good and her feel good and go, gosh, that's so horrible. I understand, and all those things. But F that. If you stood up, my belief is if you stand up in my room, something's caused you to stand up. Some part of you wants transformation, or you wouldn't be in my presence. And it's going to happen.
God, so true. I think that's one of the saddest things about what happened with sort of the PC-ness of society today, is that so many people feel like they can't say the thing that might actually help because it might hurt somebody's feelings.
Where did we get up this thing that you're not supposed to offend anybody? Here's a question for you. Can people be offended by anything if they want to be?
Yes, but I don't think that should change what I do because of it.
No, but I'm just saying, but so anyone you can, who said, where do we come up with this new magical rule? You're not supposed to offend anybody. If you're not going to offend anybody, you're not going to have any impact. I think it was it Emerson who said, be nothing, do nothing, say nothing, and create nothing. That's how you can be sure you're never attacked, right? I'm not willing to do that. I'm here I've got a purpose. And of course, some people are not going to understand it. But people in my seminars do. That's why they're still there 12 hours later. When they wouldn't sit for a 3-hour movie, they won't get up to go to the bathroom because they're watching real life as it's happening. It's more dramatic than anything you could write in a script because it's real. Because even today, reality television is bullshit. It's made up, right? People know it's fake. You feel when something's real. And when something's real, you can relate to it. And it calls to some part of you to be more real. And when we're vulnerable and we're real, we can change anything. But when we try to soften it, use all the language, pretty good, it's okay, all that kind of stuff. Those softeners keep you from getting to the place where you could actually have a transformation.
It's so true. Yeah, I got in trouble on the internet a few weeks ago because I said, I don't think you should cry in business meetings just because you can't express yourself fully. Like, I think if you need to self-regulate, like you could step out, whatever, but I don't think that you should have a belief that it will help you and it is totally fine if you cry in business meetings. That is just not our society.
There's no crying in baseball.
Yeah, there's just not. And it's happened to me a few times. And whatever. If you cry, I'm not going to do you. I don't think it's going to help your career. But
you didn't tell them they couldn't cry, right? You just said that I don't think it'll help you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you got a tag for that, of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to play like a couple little games. One is, I hear that you like this pattern interrupt exercise. And this gives me anxiety to even ask you these questions. But like, the idea is we give you a series of negative patterns, and then you say how you would break free from them. And what I find fascinating about you is like, you kind of just in the moment already know the thing to say.
I adapt it to the person. Right. You know, it has to be like, I need to know what's going on, but I'll give you some general things if you want. But
okay, well, I'm going to give you some examples.
What would be a pattern up for you versus me versus another person is different based on your model of the world, right?
Interesting.
So it's like, you know, what based on what you believe. And I figure that out very quickly when I'm doing an intervention with someone. And so I'll figure out what it is. If I know, for example, you value significance the most, then I might show you how by doing whatever it's costing you the significance, and I'll have leverage there. If you're driven by love, then I will use love as the metaphor. If you're driven by certainty, then I'll show you how it'll take away your certainty if you keep doing this, right? So I'm looking for leverage. It's not just breaking a pattern. That's like a stupid technique, you know, that won't last. It has to be tied to something there's an inner drive about. So we all have 6 needs, human needs. Certainty, everybody has it. It's a survival need because certainty can be comfortable, because if you're not comfortable, if you're in pain regularly, regular pain means damage, regular damage equals death. So it's the base need for human beings. But if you're certain all the time, you're bored silly, so you need uncertainty, right? You need variety, you need surprise. We need significance. Our culture way overvalues significance today because of social media.
That's
like people, you know, put on filters and pretend they're different than they are. One of my buddies has his own gym, and he told me this the other day, I couldn't even believe it. He said, on a daily basis, women and sometimes men come in who are, you know, influencers, because he's got a great gym. They lay out all the equipment, they take all these pictures, and they leave. They don't work out a single ounce. When you're 27 to 32, you have to be an idiot to not be fit, right? I mean, it's like decent genetics and you can be fit, right? So, but they're making money off of it. They don't do anything. It's just about looking good, right? And then using their looking good to try to make money. So, I mean, that's going to wear off for them, unfortunately, at some stage in their life, right? So it's like significance is overvalued. The need for connection and love is the deepest need that people have. But most people want certain love. And so they try to control the love and kills it. Or they want significant love. Like it's got to be the most significant thing. And then they start to promote who they are more than they are because they think that's what's necessary and they're not truthful, right? And then we need to grow, we need to contribute. Those are the spiritual needs. If you don't grow, your relationship's not growing. If your business is not growing, it's dying. That's the law of life. Everything grows or dies. But also when you grow, then you have something to give. What makes people have a meaningful life is to feel like there's something beyond yourself. Because meeting your own basic needs, any idiot can do. You can lie to yourself and do that. You know, you can work just 12-hour days and do that. There's a million ways you can meet those basic needs of certainty and uncertainty and significance and connection, at least, not so much love. But when I look at people, I try to see what's driving them, and then I know better which pattern will work. But go ahead and give me your list, and I'll just give you some simplistic responses.
Can you tell right away after meeting somebody what their one of the 6 is?
6 needs. I look to see what are their top 2.
And what if you know nothing about them?
I ask questions along the way very quickly.
You ask a lot of questions all the time.
One person counted one time. I had a woman who was suicidal, and a guy in the back who was a trainer was writing down. I asked 167 questions before I made one statement.
Whoa, fascinating. So you ask questions to figure it out. What about, you have a lot of businesses now, and can you tell immediately if somebody is somebody you should partner with or not?
No, I can't tell immediately. I can get seduced because people put on their best behavior. They're going on a date, right? So I look at it this way. If I'm going to evaluate somebody, I have 3 questions. Same way what you would have in your business or on a date. Can they do the job? If I'm interviewing them in one of my companies, by the time it gets to me, of course they can do the job, or I wouldn't be interviewing them, right? Or if you were dating, can they do the job? If you've been dating them 6 months, yeah, they can do it. The more important question is, can they do that job well long-term, right? Will they keep doing a great job? Because everybody does a great job in the beginning, right? And what determines that is, are their goals in alignment with the job, right? So I remember years ago, we had a woman that worked for us for 5 years as our personal assistant, and we were traveling the world, and we're pretty 24/7, and you become part of our family, right? And we love her and still do. She's still a close member of our family. But she fell in love with another of our employees and had a child, and so she needs to stay put. So we had to replace her. And so we went to the LA, because we were living in California at the time, Southern California, went to the LA Personal Assistance Association. We went through 5 hires in 5 months, and none of them were even close to good. And they all sounded so good to start with. And then one day I realized, we're fishing in the sewer. Who comes to LA to become a personal assistant? They don't come to become a personal assistant so they can help people, change the world, help a family. They come because I discovered they wanted my clientele. They want to talk to Quincy Jones in those days, or Anthony Hopkins, or Slice Stallone, or whoever it was that I was dealing with at the time. And they would treat them like gold and treat all my other clients and friends like they were dirt, right? Including my wife, so I get rid of them. So I realized, you've got to decide, where are you going to find somebody who's more aligned with the job and their nature and their goals? Or I have a friend that I bumped into in Fiji one time. I have a resort in Fiji, and my wife and I were flying commercial in those days still. And we, you go through immigration, there's about 5 lines. I said, honey, why don't we go on this line here? It looks like it's fast. She goes, no, this line's faster. I said, look, honey, this one's actually fast. She goes, I think this one's faster. I said, fine, you go on that line, I'll go on this line. And we play these silly games, and we're going to race. So we're going back and forth. I'm ahead, then she's ahead, back and forth. We're being silly. And this man hears my voice, because I said that to my wife. And he goes, Tony, and I turn around and look. And it's this guy, I hadn't seen him in about 9 years, brilliant businessman. And I said, what are you doing here? He goes, what are you doing here? I said, well, I'm here with my wife. I have a resort here. I'm here to take a few weeks off. And he said, you have a resort here? And I said, yeah. I said, where are you going? He told me. I said, oh, too bad. We're the #1 resort. I teased him. I said, but what are you here for? He goes, I just got married. I said, again, it was his 3rd marriage. He goes, yeah. And I said, well, where's your bride? She was standing next to Sage, and they were doing the same thing we were doing. So, you're in the line. And I said, so how long have you known her? Because I'm talking to you, what, 7, 8 years? He goes, yeah, probably just a little bit of last time I saw her, probably 7 years. So, 7 years, you're just now getting married. I said, how come? He goes, she wore me down. And I thought, oof. So then quickly I'm trying to change the conversation in my head. I'm like, well, are you going to have kids? He goes, Tony, I've had 2 families before this. I went through all of that. I lost all my money twice. We are not. I said, well, I looked across and this woman's like 29 years old and he's 48. I said, have you had a discussion about this? He goes, yes, that was my deal. If we get married, no kids. So I'm thinking, oh my God, he's in for a rough ride. So we get to the front, we introduce each other's spouses and they go off and I look at my wife and she looks at me and I go, they're in trouble. She goes, oh, you have no idea. I said, I think I do. What'd you learn? She told him, yeah, he thinks we're not going to have a kids, but we'll have within 2 years. And they did. And he got divorced for a 3rd time. The problem is they didn't have their goals aligned. You don't have to have all your goals aligned, but on major issues like a child or not, it's got to be aligned or you're not going to sustain that relationship. So whether it's a business or whether I use business because it's easier to modulate in your head, right? Yep. Or a relationship, it's the critical element there. And then the last part is it the right team fit? In a business, you can relate to this, I'm sure, because all those businesses you run. You can have somebody who's a superstar, but they're the wrong team fit. Oh, yeah. They rub against everybody else. They piss everybody else off. And maybe they're like your top salesperson or your top marketing person, your top whatever. And you don't want to get rid of them because, man, they bring in a lot of revenue. But unless you do, they'll destroy your business. They've always said, it's not the person you fail to hire, it's the person you fail to fire that destroys your business. And so I'm a big believer in testing. Now, one of the things I do with partnerships today, just as a little clue, I shared this with Patrick Bet-David the other day, and I didn't realize how important he thought it was. And I was like, I guess it really is. He said, because I've been through so many rough ones. I said, I was too. But what I do is a full background check on everyone now. Yeah. And it saves me enormous amount. And I tell them up front, listen, I'm an open book. Please do a full background check, everything on me that you want to check. But I don't go into any partnerships without a full background check. It's not out of disrespect. It's out of respect so that we know. And if there's anything that you want to share with us or anything comes up that you think is inappropriate, you can share it with me. I'll give you the report and so forth. Well, the panic you see in some people's eyes, then the tightening in some people, and then the people are like, no, it's totally fine. And then you get the report and then they never call you back. I have saved myself so much money, time, and energy by having that one investment in a long-term relationship up front.
So smart. I wish I would have done that earlier on. Although I think some of the biggest partnership mistakes I made were cheap in retrospect. Like they were painful, but you're like, I needed to lose that money. I needed to lose that relationship, or I would have kept having the same pattern.
Yeah, there's always a benefit. But as the years go by, you'll probably be less tolerant of having those things happen.
True. Well, it's heartbreaking, I think,
Yes.
because the partnerships, I remember one in particular, I thought we were buddies. I was like,
I've been there.
Yeah, I'm like, I met your baby. I thought we were best buds. And, there was one instance where they kind of targeted me. I was on the internet and I didn't realize there's this type of human that, I guess there are predators everywhere.
Yeah.
And so then I had to realize, where am I short in my analysis of people?
Yes.
And how did I sell myself on what I wanted instead of what was in front of me?
Most of my most important skills came from some early mistakes with people, one of which I had 2 partners, and I brought them on board and made a deal with them that was ridiculously good for them. But it was based still on some results, and they absolutely stole $758,000, $250 of the $758,000 put me in debt. $758,000. My company was doing $1 million, so not billions, $1 million, right? So it was like all the money I knew, and I'd been on the road 225 days, and everybody told me I have to go bankrupt. And I wanted to kill this guy. He fled to Mexico, and I realized, well, I'm chasing him in Mexico. My business is going to go under. So I went to Fiji, and I was so angry at him, but I said, no, who I'm most angry with is me, because how did I not see this, right? I don't care how good he presented. Was it about human behavior? I don't fully understand. And I was second day in Fiji in this sweaty little hut, and I went to sleep with that thought, just burning thought. I woke up the next morning and I wrote literally for 6 straight hours filled up 3 journals, all these distinctions I made. And I created my Date with Destiny program because I did it to me. That's my favorite program. It's the only seminar I've been through because I did it for me. Changed everything, rewired me so that, sometimes you have values that pull you apart. Like you want to please everybody and you want to be as successful as you can. You want to be totally honest. And you want everybody totally happy, right? And I learned how to align my values so that I was pulled instead of having to push or being pulled in different directions. And it was the first time in my life I felt calm. And everybody around me is like, you're so different. It was like a rewiring for myself. So I agree with you. Sometimes your biggest mistakes, if you learn from them, are the most important ones. But I don't want to make the same mistakes. And so I look for systems to help with that as well.
You have a program coming up in January that's Time to Rise Summit. I've never been to this one before.
Yes.
I want to hear about it. And I also want to hear about how you prepare for these shows that you do, because I hear you obsessively prepare even to this day for the shows you put on. Is that true?
That's true. I believe in overloading my brain because I never know what's going to happen. Because I don't just do a rote talk, right? I sometimes I'll prepare everything and then I go out into the audience and I feel different things. I see people, I see where they are, and I have to adjust. Also, could you imagine, this will be my 49th year I'm about to begin. So I would be bored out of my brain if I was just doing the exact thing. Now I know there's certain things that work and what to do, but I have to be able to adapt to feel alive and do art. And art is something that's different every time. It's not the same. And it's also what challenges me. So I feed my brain everything I can, and then I trust when I step on the stage, what'll be necessary is there.
How do you feed it? Like, what does that look like?
Well, for example, my Date with Destiny, I have people fill out about a 20-page interview report. There's 5,000 of them. And I read them for a week. So not everybody does it, by the way. Some people wait till the last minute, so or don't turn in at all. It's only your destiny. Don't worry about it, right? But what it gives me is the patterns in the room. I may not remember every name, every story, but I remember what the patterns are. And then when somebody stands up, even if it wasn't that person, I know if I can work with this person and help them transform, I could be affecting 50 or 100 people simultaneously, right? Yeah. That I consciously know about. That's how I load my brain. I also brainstorm out different examples or tools. I'm always coming up with something new in terms of insight or strategy. And then, but the event you're talking about is a really unique event. I started it because of COVID, because I was used to doing stadiums, right? And in 2020, the governor of California's team calls me up. I know him well, not a big fan.
Newsom called you?
Yeah, well, Newsom had his team call me, and then he wrote me directly. He was upset about me telling the world that he canceled the event, which he did, right? He said, "You're not making me look good," he said. I'm like,
you go, that's you.
You're a nice man. I like you personally, but I don't agree with your policies, right? This is ridiculous. So we had an event there for 14,000 people, and 2 weeks before, he sends out the message to me from his team and says, "You only put 100 people in the stadium, our new rules." I said to his people, I said, "This is absurd. We can't put 100 people in a stadium. What are we going to do with the other, 13,000, 900 people? And so I said, screw them. I'm going to move this thing to Vegas. They'll never shut down Vegas, right? So 2 weeks before, we moved 14,000 people to Vegas, and they shut down Vegas, right? So then I'm like, oh my God, I mean, I need to help these people. The time they need us most is during this time because everybody's depressed and upset and not know what's going to happen. So I said, okay, let's move it to Texas. Texas is its own country. I met the governor there. I don't know him personally really well, but I've met him. He says he's not going to shut down. 7 days before they shut down Vegas, we rented a big church, 14,000 people. So then I was like, I'm just relentless. I'm like, okay, well, they allow you to put 10 people in a movie theater. And I said, okay, we'll do 1,400 movie theaters, local for people that don't have to travel. We'll have big screens, we'll have big sound, at least, 10 people interacting with each other. Then they shut down the movie theaters. So I was like, okay, we're going to build a studio. And my CFO was like, you're going to build a studio? Like, we lost $100 million in 6 months because I didn't want to fire anybody. Because he kept saying we're 10 more days to stop the whatever the language was used in those days. And I was like, so I said, we can't wait. So I bought a building because I couldn't build it fast enough. 50-foot high ceilings. I built 22-foot high LED screens, made them 50 feet around me, and got 0.67 resolution, highest resolution in the world. I could see more in your face than I can even see now because you're this much bigger, right? And then I called Eric Yuan, the founder of Zoom, and said, 1,200 people is not going to work. I need 25,000 people. And he's a fan of mine, so he changed the tech so we could do it. And then I hired all these people. They all said, we can't do this in 9 weeks. And I said, well, then you're not working here. And I just kept going through people. We literally, the night before, were putting it all together. And we got up, we did this event, and we had people from all over the earth that participated. And I had 193 countries there. And we had over 25,000 people. Normally we'd have 15,000. So it was even more people because they could do it from different places in the world they wanted to. So then I was like, okay, I want to reach everybody. Let's do an event for free. Let's do one event for 3 days, not just an hour thing or two. Let's do like 2.5 hours a day for 3 days, enough to give people a real transformation. We'll do it right at the beginning of the year. It's kind of the comeback challenge, I called it back then. It's now called Time to Rise. And the comeback story is the best story of your life. You're down, everything's not working. That's what inspires people. This is the comeback time. And we put it together. We had 1 million people show up, 1,000,001. And now we've done it for 7 straight years. I think this will be the last year I'll do it. My schedule's so full. But I would do one last one. And we're going to do it for 3 days. And people from 193 countries attend, every country in the world. And we go for, like I say, 2.5 hours. And we help you not just make a New Year's resolution, which nobody keeps, right? Because they don't have a plan, they don't have a strategy or anything else. We help you create the breakthroughs that are necessary. And you become part of a really cool community because we have a Facebook community. And so in the middle of the night, I give people an assignment and they make these videos and you see people transforming from all over the earth, every age group, every direction, every country, every language. So I love that aspect of it. And there's no charge for it. Literally, it's free. So if people go to Time to Rise Summit, timetoRiseSummit.com, they can register for it and they can attend it. And you can think of it like going to a great 2.5 hour movie 3 days in a row, but instead of just being entertained, at the end of your life is really transformed. And then, we've done so much value for people, then some people decide they want to do other things with us, which is wonderful, but there's no requirement in any way, shape, or form. And it's been my way to give back. It was desperately needed during COVID. And then we just, kept the momentum for it for now.
Do I get claps at the event? The Tony Robbins claps? You do, don't you? Because it's my favorite part of the event. Well, I can't wait to come to this next one. I can't wait to see what this next evolution looks for. Well, that's the thing about it. You don't have to
come to it. It's digital. So you can do it from
my couch.
You can do it from your couch. You can do it from your office. And we start here at 10 in the morning. It's midnight in Sydney, Australia, for example. And they go each day all the way through it as well till 3 or 4 in the morning. So you'll be joined by people all over the earth and you'll have a cool community of people that all have something in common. They want more. They're not willing to settle.
Yeah.
If you want more for your life, if you want it's time to rise and take more out of your life, you don't want to have next year be the same as last year, then you need some tools, you need some inspiration, you need some community, and you need some days where it's actually going to happen. Like you said, put it on the calendar and make it lock. So it's coming up January 29th through the 31st. January 29th through 31st. And if they go to timetoRiseSummit.com, get you signed up and lock it in your calendar. And I encourage people, bring your family, bring your friends or your coworkers at the office and do it. It'll be an experience you won't forget.
If you want to make more money, you have to fight for the first 15 minutes of the day. I call it the hot 15. The Hot 15. I have built my business 15 minutes at a time. And I'm not a morning person. I can't bullshit.
If you've ever felt stuck, knowing what to do but not doing it, this one's for you. Mel Robbins, you probably know her as a superstar podcaster, best-selling author, the Let Them Theory. Today, we break down exactly how to rewire your brain to stop self-sabotage, silence the inner critic, and finally follow through on the things that matter.
69% of people in the United States would quit their job if they could. If you're the kind of person that resents someone who's paying you, then you should figure out a business for yourself. You have no excuse right now because you can go to any AI platform and you can type in your problem or your goal. And if you were to follow it and give up your timeline, eventually things will get better. I talked myself out of starting a podcast for probably about 6 years. And I kept saying, it's too late. You missed the window. That monk, Stephen Bartlett, that guy. I'm not interested in being smart. I'm interested in being useful. If I can save anybody the heartache I've caused myself, that's an incredible way to live your life. On my deathbed, I will remember that experience with my daughters. Oh, fuck. As one of the highlights of my life.
Hundreds of millions of people know about Mel Robbins, you know, your buddy Mel, your friend Mel.
Yeah.
And I feel this like friendship with
Yes.
you. I also have been so inspired by what you've built. You're a podcaster, you're a businesswoman, you know, you had a corporate career historically, and you've been somebody that almost lost it all and then got it back.
Yep.
And did the really uncomfortable thing, which is share it. And so on this podcast today, I really want to dive a lot into how to help someone change their life.
Yes.
I loved this quote, which is start late, start over, start scared, start again, just start.
Yes.
And I think you've lived it because at one point,
Yes, I have.
in your 40s,
Yes.
800K in debt,
Yep.
business struggling, and now best-selling author, top podcaster, big businesswoman.
Yeah.
What happened?
Oh my God. Well, can I just blame it all on my husband? That'd be okay?
I think that's what we do. You just met mine.
Yeah, my husband's name is Chris as well, by the way.
Oh, no.
Yes. So, you know, the long story short is we failed. That's what happened. We failed. My husband went for his dream and wanted to open a restaurant. And the first one was successful. And then like complete morons, we ignored everybody's advice. Everyone's advice. Because when things start to work, you gaslight yourself into thinking they're always going to work. And then you start to go, oh, you know, I don't want to dilute myself. And, you know, we're going to get friends. And so we cashed out our life savings. 401ks, kids' college savings. We have 3 kids under the age of 8 at this point. And we get a home equity line. That's free money. We find credit cards, cash them out. That's free money. And what happened is a very, very, very predictable thing that happens in the restaurant business, which is when you start to expand, you better be rigorous about the formula that's working. They had park and walk downtown, 40 seats. The second location, which seemed like a dream, was a different type of location. It was a strip. It had a big anchor tenant that was very high end. It had a lot of other high end stuff, but a park and walk is a different psychology in a suburban town than a big strip that people are driving past commuting wise. And it was a little bigger than the first one. And so, you know, you know this in hindsight. But so the second location, it was double the cost. It took twice as long to build. So by the time the second location was actually open, there was no money left for the third location, which they had signed a lease that had the percentage of profits, a cost plus lease on it, which that'll kill your retail business. And within 6 weeks, they knew the second location was a dog. And then on top of it, you know, we live in the Northeast. This was in the Boston area. There were 5 nor'easters. 5 nor'easters. And if you're living in an area where you don't have snow, that means the abominable snowman turns into a blizzard, blows through your town, and shuts things down for 3 days, which means nobody's getting paid, no cash registers are ringing. And by the way, this was 2008. So if you don't know what that means, recession in the U.S., housing market turns upside down. We have secured everything with our housing market. And by God, we found ourselves in this situation where we were $800,000 in debt. Credit cards maxed. The home is upside down in equity. Liens hit the house. And if you're somebody that goes into business as a dream, you are a dreamer. You have a big vision for yourself. You've probably made a vision board and written the business plans. And, you have this idea of what you think it's going to be. Nobody makes a vision board and plasters an image of divorce and alcoholism and bankruptcy and a closed restaurant on it. But when it happens, and if you're in business, I'm going to tell you something, you will fail. You will lose money. It is going to test you. It is the price of entry. It is you against you. And in the hindsight, you will see that you made some dumb mistakes. You can learn from them. And in hindsight, it's very easy to tell this story. When you're in the thick of it, oh my God. I lost my job. By this point, the kids are 10 and under. The liens hit the house. Cody, the bills were piled up on the counter. I didn't even open them. And if you've ever struggled financially, you know the certain kind of shame and pain that comes from seeing bills arrive that you can't pay. And so this moment of my life, it was what the type of stress that you feel when you have no money is a crushing, grinding, unbelievable amount of stress. And here's the other thing, Cody. I knew Chris and his partner they were doing everything they possibly could. Like some of it was just kind of decisions that in hindsight we would have done differently. Other stuff is just life's unfair. Things happen. There's so much out of your control. And I also in this period of my life, one of the things that I turned on Chris. Like I literally turned him into the enemy because when you face a breakdown like this in your life, especially when, you can't make payroll. You've got vendors showing up and you're hiding in the bathroom. You are coming home and your spouse is angry at you. Like this poor guy, when I think about like the fact that I was so scared and it's easier to be angry than it is to be afraid. And so my story begins at the age of 41. I had been a lawyer. I had done the startup thing. I had had mild success. My husband and I, the first business that we ever had, it was a paint your own pottery franchise, like one of those places that you take your kids.
Totally.
Completely lost money on that. We even one day walked in and the high school kid that we had the amount of stuff that goes sideways in a small business. I'm sure you hear it when you're coaching your small business owners or at these events. I remember showing up and there was a birthday party going on. And I'm like, where the heck is someone that was supposed to be running the place that afternoon? I walk in, she's having sex in the bathroom with her boyfriend. Like, welcome to small business. Like, this is like, what's happening?
At least it wasn't in front.
Yes,
at this point, you go, thanks for doing it where nobody could see it. Okay.
That's true.
That's a Tuesday.
Yes, they should have locked the door. Like,
oops, sorry. Let me,
Oh, sorry to interrupt you while I'm paying you to run my store. Exactly.
You have to laugh, though. Otherwise, you die on the inside.
Yes. And so, and I also come from entrepreneurs. So my grandparents are cattle farmers and hog farmers and own machine shops. And my other grandparents owned a small bakery. My dad was not only an orthopedic surgeon, but he invested in PT clinics. My mom had a little retail store and had a kitchen gourmet kind of store. And so I just grew up in a family where it was in the blood system that you can do your own thing. And then I became a lawyer, and I got to tell you something.
Why a lawyer too? After
oh my
all
God.
that?
Okay, well that's a long story, but basically I had no idea what to do with my life. So I attached myself like one of those fish that attaches itself to a shark and just followed whoever I was dating to whatever they were doing. And so I ended up going to law school because out of college I got a temp job, and the first place they put me was a law firm, and I didn't know what to do with my life. I hated that job, but my boyfriend was applying to get a PhD in economics. and everybody around me was applying to law school. And so I just kind of jumped into that current thinking I could do something else. But then the current of where you are takes you on to the next thing, and you can slide into the next thing. And I want to tell you something. I am the world's lousiest employee. I am built to be a business owner. If you're the kind of person that resents someone who's paying you to do a job, then you should make your own way and figure out a business for yourself. I was the kind of person that was looking for every way to leave before 5. I would put my coat on my chair at the law firm and go out for lunch, and I'd spin my computer around so nobody could see that I wasn't still in the office. Oh, I am the worst. Yes, because I didn't like it.
What you're talking about right there is so relatable.
Yes.
I think especially to people listening today who want to be an entrepreneur. And if somebody's listening and you're like, I want to do all that, but I also hate my job, but my job's terrible and your boss is the worst. How do you flip your mentality from saying, I hate my job, I want to do the least, to I actually want to build an empire and maybe I just could?
Oh, well, you definitely, well, first of all, not everybody should. Not everybody is built to run a business, because you got to be willing to do it for 10 years. You got to be willing to accept the risk that comes with stepping out on your own. Like, you got to be willing to do all the things you don't want to do at work, but do it in your business because it's for you. And so that's like, maybe you're not cut out for this, and that's okay too. Right now, 69% of people in the United States would quit their job if they could. And what I want to tell you is, there's a simple way to know if you should be doing something else. If you're driving to work or logging onto Zoom and you have tension in your body, you have a sense of dread, you don't want to go in, there's your signal. Now the question becomes, what are you willing to work at for 10 years in order to build something for yourself? And if you don't trust yourself to do it on your own, and you're not yet at one of Codie's events or in the coaching program, because that's the other thing. Like, the beautiful thing about what you do is Chris and I didn't know what the hell we were doing.
Yeah.
And everything was on the line. We didn't have somebody that was advising us. So you're just kind of like trying to figure it out and scrambling and doing it on your own. And so there's so much more support even today, because this happened, almost 20 years ago. So that's number one. Number two, you're not stuck where you are. You're not stuck in a job. You're not stuck with a boss. Like, that's a lie you're telling yourself. You can't quit your job if you have bills to pay. But number one, the first thing you need to do is flip that mindset from complaining about it to saying, I get to work today and I get to pay my bills. And that's a good thing. But I am going to stop wasting my weekends watching television or partying with my friends. And I'm going to use the time on the weekends, if I don't like the job that I have, to figure out what is the next thing I want to do. That's all you have to do. And obviously, it doesn't happen overnight. It happens over time. And one way that I started to figure out, well, what might I like to do, is I started doing experiments. So one experiment and for me, you got to understand, Codie, I'm a very negatively motivated person. So if I have a problem, I'm very motivated. And one of the first problems that helped me start to figure out what I wanted to do was, I was working in a large law firm in Boston. I got pregnant with our first daughter, Sawyer. On maternity leave, I started to have that feeling that you may have as you're going to work, which is, I don't want to go back there. I don't want to ever answer the question, what do you do for a living, with the answer, I'm a lawyer. And so I went to Chris. I'm like, I don't think I can go back to work. He's like, what do you mean? You have to go back to work. First of all, we both pay for the mortgage. Secondly, you will drive me, our daughter, and yourself crazy if you're not doing something.
Yep.
And here's the deal. You got to make $60,000. And now I have a problem. And he's like, and I don't care if you're a barista. That's what you have to make. I've crunched the numbers in order for us to pay our bills. And so now I have a problem. I do not want to go back to work. I got 4 weeks before maternity leave is up. And now I got to find a job that will pay me $60,000. And I'm going to tell you something. When you have a problem, think about this. If you have a problem that one of your kids is facing, you basically have a PhD all of a sudden in figuring that thing out. But when it's you sit around and you're like, I don't know what to do. And so I networked like crazy because I did not want to go back to that job. And the night before I was supposed to go back for maternity leave, I got offered a job for $55,000 with a new tech startup. This was 1999 in Boston, first big .com bubble. And I had to go into work the next day. And they threw me, when I walked in the door, a surprise baby shower.
Oh, balls. Oh, no.
And I had to resign. That was harder than breaking up with like a couple people that were like nice guys, but not your person.
Yeah, but also, I mean, I think a lot of people, like, you now run a business.
Yes.
Do you ever want somebody to stay and
No,
work for you?
Absolutely
that
not.
hates their life?
Get out.
What would you do if somebody came to you and said, hey, I love you. I love what we're doing here. It's just not for me.
Great.
You would say, tell me what is for you. Should I make an introduction? If you're a good performer, go
Absolutely.
on. Let's fill your role. Let's find you something else. Great.
Absolutely.
But it does seem like you have these ideas in your brain about how things are going to work. And
Yes.
and we catastrophize and say, it will go terrible if my boss knows. They'll fire me immediately. Then I'll never be able to become employed
Right.
again. As opposed to, well, but how would you know? If you've never run a business, you don't know that feeling yet.
Yes. And if you don't know, here's another thing that happened. So I kept feeling this nagging pull that, okay, now I'm in the startup space. I think like what do I want to do? And I'd always thought I wanted to run a bakery. And if you think you want to run a bakery or open a restaurant, before you do that, experiment by getting a part-time job in one. Because it took me exactly one Saturday shift of showing up at 5 o'clock in the morning and filling the napkin container and filling and refilling the half and half and the milk and wiping the counters and baking the carrot cake muffins and running the thing and and cleaning up the tables. Realize, wait a minute, I don't want to spend my life smelling like a carrot muffin and doing all this stuff. Why I was interested in a bakery is, first of all, my grandparents had one, so it's in the DNA, but I'm interested in the experience and having a life where I could walk into a bakery where people know my name and I know them, and I can have my carrot muffin and I have time and I can have a meeting there. I want the freedom of the experience. And so all these little experiments that you can do while you're employed, because you need to be responsible, you need to pay your bills. The worst thing you can do is quit too soon and put stress on the thing that you are starting, is do an experiment and really put yourself in a micro way in the thing that you think you want, and you will feel immediately whether it's for you or not for you. And so, back to kind of the core story, I just continued to kind of bounce from one tech company to another. I then hired a coach because I felt like I was all over the place to help me figure out what to do. This would have been 2001. And this coach said, because you're a lawyer and because you've now got this .com experience and because you are crazy intuitive, I think you'd be a great coach. Why don't you let me train you? And so in 2003, I started coaching people. I basically said I work with successful people who feel stuck. And I started doing it on the side. This is how bad of an employee I was. You ready? So I was working for another tech firm. I would literally tell my boss, oh my God, I would tell my boss that I was going to take a call in the conference room. And I would be in there coaching somebody on the phone who was paying me $75 an hour.
That's incredible.
And then what I did is I so badly wanted to get out of that job, but I couldn't afford to. And so here's how I did the math. If you're currently straddling something and you're just like, okay, when do I make the leap? When do I make the leap? You want to create a math equation for yourself that is tied to your psychology. And what I said is, if I can land 10 clients at $75 an hour, and if I can have those 10 clients pay me consistently, so every single week I'm making $750 on the side, at night, in the mornings, hiding in a conference room while I'm lying to my boss. Like, you got to do what you got to do. If I can do that consistently for 4 months, then I can quit my job, because I have now demonstrated that I am able to maintain that. And it's not now luck. I've demonstrated something to myself that I'm willing to count on. And that's what happened.
And you kind of pair the luck with the like. So, you
Yes,
know, you
yes.
could have probably stayed at the bakery for
Yes.
the same amount of hours.
Yeah, no, I one Saturday
But-
shift. I'm like, not for me.
But it's actually one of the reasons why I think that unpaid work is so useful, because all it is
Wait, hold on. It's not unpaid, because you're getting paid knowledge and experience.
No, totally. I'm just saying, half the time people are like, I really want to be a podcaster. And then
Yes.
you're like, well, sit and talk to somebody for an hour and see if you actually like it. Even if it's free, just
Right.
try it.
Oh, I
and
got
see
a better
what's up.
idea.
Huh.
Take out the voice memo on your phone and start recording and see if you like it, because that's the job.
And put it on the internet and see how
Yes.
you feel about other people listening to
Yes,
it.
because that's the job.
Because that's the job.
Yes.
You know, you talked about this, but I think you're probably considered one of the best life coaches, the biggest life coaches in the world, across all different types of humans. And when I think about,
Is that what people think about me?
I think so.
Really?
I think you're
Wow.
yeah. I saw multiple YouTube channels titles. #1 life coach.
Is that what it
Mel
said
Robbins.
to me?
Yeah.
Like on my channel?
No.
Change that
Other
banner.
people.
No, okay, go ahead.
I love being called #1. I'm fine with it.
Oh,
You
I'll
get-
take
switch it
number
to me.
one.
Yeah.
I'm like, get rid of the life coach. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'll tell you
That's
why. Because
perfect. I was gonna
I
ask you.
feel like all I'm doing is sharing my experience.
Yeah.
And I am providing access to some of the best thinkers and researchers and interesting people in a way that's relevant to a normal person's life. And I am sharing the advice that's worked for me, but I feel like if you're somebody's coach, you have an accountability to them.
Agree.
And to me, I know that the responsibility for what you do with what I have shared, or the conversation we have put out, by the way, for free.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything about the things that I do. I mean, what am I selling? You're going to tell me it's a dumb business model. I have a book, and you don't even need to buy it, because I'm going to tell you exactly
You should
how to
buy it.
use
It's
what
so
I'm
great.
doing.
We have multiple books. How many copies have you sold overall?
8 million, 11 months.
Wow.
It's on track to be the most successful nonfiction book in history.
That is, but not surprising, because it's really hard to take the complex things and simplify them. I always feel like if you want to figure out if somebody's really smart and somebody you should learn from, it's not, do they make you feel stupid? It's, do they make you feel really smart?
Yes.
Even when you talk about really
Yes.
complex things.
And I'm not afraid to be the villain. And the reason why is I'm not interested in being smart. I'm interested in being useful. And if I can save anybody the heartache I've caused myself, or the pain I've caused myself or other people, that's an incredible way to live your life. And for me, I spent so long hiding who I was and being embarrassed by my mistakes. People always say, oh my God, you're so vulnerable. I'm like, I don't think it's vulnerable to talk about what's actually happening. It's way harder to lie and to carry things on your own, because when you carry it silently, it has so much weight. And, I want to go back to one of the things that you said earlier. I want you to start late, what there was like all these starts.
Yes.
When we were $800,000 in debt, and I had more job changes than an ABBA cover band does costume changes, I told myself that it was too late. I told myself we had screwed everything up. We would never get out of debt. I would never figure out my career. We would never be able to, pay for college. We would never get these liens off the house. I was too old. I had screwed up too much. There was too much of a track record for us. It's over. And there was this moment where you kind of get trapped in this loop with yourself, where now you're arguing against everything that you want. And you're arguing at the person that you married. And you forget who you married. And you forget that they're trying as hard as they can. They're not meaning to screw anything up. And you being a world-class jerk to this person is only making it worse. And I remember this moment, and I didn't want to be that way. I didn't want to be yelling at Chris. I didn't want to be drinking so much. I didn't want to be hitting the snooze button 5 times a morning and the kids were missing the bus. I didn't want to feel like I had screwed up my life, but I could not, Cody, make myself do anything. I was frozen in this experience, and I knew what to do. And here's the kind of twist on modern life. You have no excuse right now, because you can go to any AI platform and you can type in your problem or your goal, and it will pretty consistently spit out a step-by-step plan. And if you were to follow it and give up your timeline, eventually things will get better. Eventually you'll get nearer the thing that you want. Eventually, like, the things that you need to do work. But if you feel right now like I felt, which is I was so discouraged. If you're discouraged, you won't do anything.
So true.
And it's so easy when you're in business, because it's so isolating when you're a entrepreneur. And a major mistake that we make when we launch a business, and this is why I love what you guys are doing here, is we do it alone.
Yeah.
And so we don't have anybody to talk to, and we carry the burden alone. And I just think, I think about Chris at this moment in time, and I think about that famous statue, is it Atlas, of the guy that's got the world on his, like, that is what that poor man felt. And so
it's funny you say that, because where is it, Kyle? Oh, right there.
Oh, yeah, there it is, up there.
That's our company logo. I can
Shut up.
Thinking, except it's a brain. But the idea is really that you're holding up the world when you decide to build something. It's way easier. Well, I think being broke is hard, and getting rich is hard, and being an employee is hard, and being an owner is hard. It's all hard, but you get to choose which one.
Yes. Or for how long you're in which one. Yeah. Or if you're going to try to do something about which one.
That's right.
Buying a business or launching your own venture can feel impossible if you're stuck figuring out the website, logo, email marketing all at once. But here's the good news. GoDaddy Aero is here to help. So just a few prompts, it builds a professional website, a logo, an email, even social content, all tailored to your business. It's like having a whole launch team in your laptop. Instead of months of grinding, you can go from idea to launch-ready business in minutes. No more waiting, no more guessing, just a real online presence that you can grow with day one. Suddenly, the thing that was just a tiny idea in a notebook is online, polished, and ready to scale. So if you're ready to take your idea to life, head to GoDaddy.com/Codie Sanchez and try GoDaddy Aero today.
But I think one of the really cool things about your story is, you kind of said it earlier, you're not afraid to be the villain. You're not afraid to tell all the dark spots that we often don't want to tell.
It's how you free yourself of them.
And even with AI today, I think part of the reason it's so interesting having these conversations, what I hope, if you're listening right now, that you're taking away from this is, sometimes I think in modern society today, you're told a lot, the things that won't help you, but might make you feel better in that moment. So if you go to ChatGPT and go, I fought with Chris and told him he was a terrible entrepreneur because he did this and now we're in debt and this happened, AI will probably say back to you, you're right, that was inappropriate how he did that, and you are in debt, and it'll validate you. And so instead, we got to have Mel or somebody yelling at you a little bit to say.
Yes. And
maybe not.
Yeah. And there was this moment in our marriage where Chris and I were fighting, and he's like, I feel like you don't believe me. And I said, I don't. I do not believe in your ability to get us out of this. And it was the truth. And there was something in that brutal moment of honesty that he needed to hear, that I needed to say, because, I will say for myself that I was part of the brainwashing that happens to women of assuming that it was my partner's responsibility to pay for my life, that it was his job to be successful so that I could have the things that I wanted. And that if I made money, it was my money for the extra stuff. But his money was our money. And there was something that happened in just saying it out loud, that something shifted in me where I started to have this brutal moment with myself that was like, bitch, wake up. Like, if you want things to change, it's your job to change it. Like, you're capable of making money. You're capable of figuring this out. You're capable of getting a job. Stop bitching at him. Stop pointing the fingers and look in the mirror and see that if you can define what you want and you're willing to give up the timeline on it, you can actually make something amazing happen. And, you know, I said I was very negatively motivated. Once you admit to yourself, this motherfucker's not going to get these liens off this house. If I want to keep this house, it's on me. All right, we're selling that car. All right, we're pulling the kids out of town soccer. All right, cut the cable, everybody. Can't pay for it anyway. All right, I guess I better find not one job, but 3 jobs. And that's what I did. And so you don't have to be motivated by this big, beautiful, brilliant thing. I wasn't trying to take my kids to Disney or go to buy a beach house, or I was trying to pay my bills. And so there are going to be moments in your journey, whether, you know, you're going to be more entrepreneurial at work or you're going to be an entrepreneur in terms of your profession. There are going to be moments where you are in crisis and survival mode. And that was my motivation. The pain of sitting around hoping that somebody was going to come in and fix this, the pain of drinking myself into the ground as a way to numb all the awful thoughts. That finally got harder than just getting my butt out of bed and looking for a job and going for a walk and calling my parents and saying, we're in deep trouble. I need help. And explaining to friends and being kinder to Chris. Like, the thing that I had been avoiding, that anybody, it's so easy to give other people advice. Oh my God. Because you could have heard this story and be like, Mel, you're an idiot. Get a job. Call the banks. Like, ask for money. Like, do something. Don't do what you're doing because it's not working. But you will have a moment in time where the pain of your situation, finally, just avoiding what you need to do is harder than doing it. And so for the first, I don't know, however many years, it was just desperation, get a job, then get another job, then get another job. The first job I got was $25 an hour as a Saturday morning radio host. Call-in show, a talk radio station in Boston.
You do have a great voice.
Thank you.
Do you get that a lot?
I do.
Bet. Do you think that you would, can you be really successful without having a massive failure at some point?
I don't think you can live a life without having a massive failure. You're going to have a massive failure if you're not successful. That's just life. Mm-hmm. And it's not about what's going to happen to you, because horrible things will happen to you. Unfair things are going to happen to you. They maybe already have. They're going to be amazing things that happen to you. It took me so long to recognize that while I was so busy trying to manage everything and everybody else, and I had lots of opinions and upsetness about the unfairness of this or that or the other, blah, 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 I was missing the fact that it's not about what's happening out there. The power is in here. Your power is in now. What are you going to do about it? Mm-hmm. Like, through your actions and your attitude, you can make anything better. And that's not toxic positivity. That is the truth. It doesn't remove the very real issues that a lot of people face in, the world today. It doesn't remove historical things that have kept people from gaining wealth. Like, if you look at the way that Black families were discriminated against and unable and discriminated against and not able to buy a house, which is the single biggest form of the way we transfer generational wealth to people. And it is not just impacted their grandparents and their parents, but now the generation. That is real. That is not fair. It is a reality. And what are you going to do given where you are at this moment? Yeah. Because you have to acknowledge that it's not fair. But then acknowledge that you, through your actions and through your attitude and through the fact that you live in this extraordinary moment. And I realize the world's fallen off its axis. There's a lot that feels wrong, but there's so much more information and support and ways to solve problems that weren't even here 10 years ago. And so what I don't ever want anybody to do in business or in life or relationships or mental or health, which mental health, I even hate that word, because you know what mental health is? Happiness.
Yeah.
It's managing your stress. It's not being a dick to people because, you know, you're burnt out. That's what mental health means. Like, we need a better word for it. We got to market it better, Cody.
Yeah. Well, also, why do you think that? I mean, nobody wants to stay in all the negative states, but could you imagine a person who had never experienced the deepest, darkest parts, that hadn't had the biggest highs, that hadn't been so angry and so sad and so upset? Why do we have to feel like we can't feel them? Why do we have to be happy all the time? Where's the context in that?
I think everybody just has this wild array of emotions, and that I think it has a lot to do, if I were to get like intellectual about it, it has to do with the fact that we are wired to connect with other people. And when you experience any form of social rejection, whether it's walking down the hallway at middle school and, oh, there's the cool kids and I'm the weird one, or nobody wants to be the weird one. And the part of the brain that experiences social rejection is the same part of the brain where you experience physical pain. And so you will viscerally move away from any experience where you're the weird one. This is why we're having such a huge problem right now with self-silencing, because especially the younger generation is so worried about feeling cringe, because cringe, oh my God, I don't ever feel cringe. And here's the truth. Cringe is actually doing it right. Because if you're going to do something where you step out of your comfort zone for the first time, you will feel cringy. That is what it feels like to do something for the first time. And it also feels like social rejection and pain. And so if you feel cringy when you put up your first YouTube video, you did it correctly. If you feel cringy when you go to your first pitch meeting and ask your friends and family for money, and you're like, oh God, what? You did it right. Because your body's saying, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And so I feel that people are uncomfortable, especially sharing the lows, because they are afraid of being judged. You know, we had a grief expert on, Dan Kessler. He's so awesome. And he's hilarious. Like, who knows that if you're talking about grief, you'd be like snort laughing with somebody. And it's the one thing we're all going to experience. Nobody gets out of this alive. Like, we're all going to go through it. But he basically said the average time period that somebody reaches out for help for grief after somebody dies or has a living death, like, you know, they have a stroke or Alzheimer's, 5 years.
Holy hell.
5 years.
Wow. Why?
The shame of feeling like you're supposed to be beyond it. And the shame of feeling like you're the only one. And so that keeps you trapped. And when you hold on to that kind of negativity or that suffering on your own, even if it's like, I can't figure out how to make this P&L work. I'm terrified that I'm not going to make payroll next month. Or your little town, your town awards are coming out, and the person that secret shopped at your retail store was a real bitch. Oof. And now you're like, what are we going to do? Oh my God. And then you get frozen. Well, there's people out there that can help you. You can ask for help. But if you hold it all inside, it's going to get bigger. Yeah. And so I think we just do it reflexively because nobody wants to be the weirdo. And to me, it just is so liberating to not hold that over my own head.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm proud of the crappy things I've done. It's not that I, you know, am celebrating the negative things or the crappy things I said to Chris or the ways I've mistreated myself or other people. It's that the only way I can truly move on is if I give myself the freedom. Yeah. And you release it by being comfortable enough to talk about it.
Well, you also seem to do like one of the things that I love about your work online is probably a little funky, which is you really express so many emotions. And you like I will never forget Oprah sent this. I mean, the way Oprah sends a bouquet, Jesus Christ.
Oh my God.
That thing was the size of a basketball court. It was beautiful, but it was like I've never seen a bouquet that big.
Enormous.
And
Thank God we had sliding glass doors in our house. It would not have actually come through.
Just in the driveway.
It was huge.
It's actually amazing. It's like Oprah, most houses, this is the most. You can't go bigger.
It was like the size of these two chairs.
That's so funny. But what I love is sometimes like I go back to like the Taylor Swift lyrics even where, she talks about how it is cool to try and it is cool to get excited. And if you are doing something incredible, like celebrate it. And I struggle with that sometimes. I don't know. I just keep going and I don't think about it and I don't take that moment to have that emotional
okay, hold on a
connection.
second. Let me change this for you.
Oh, I can't wait.
These are the best days. Do not rip yourself off of the opportunity of taking a moment every day and really savoring something that went well.
So how do you savor it? What does that look like in your day?
So tell me something went well today.
You know what? I had an incredible conversation before you with a guy by the name of Joe Lamont, who is changing. Have you talked to this guy?
No, who's Joe Lamont?
Oh my gosh. He started this school here called Alpha School.
Okay.
You should maybe consider.
Oh wait, I think I've heard about this.
Oh,
He's like it's like a Waldorf meets a this meets a that, and
Yeah.
it's by all these entrepreneurs that started it.
So he has his schools across the U.S. are top 1% students in every single course and category that they have.
Wow.
The students learn in 2 hours a day, AI guided, and the rest of the day is self-discovery plus outings, etc.
I want to go there.
Yeah, me too. That's what I said. And it's actually a little funny because it used to be this hardcore private equity, I was like, how was your EQ before, Joe? And he was like, not high. And now he's the principal of the school. He's a billionaire. It's so fascinating to me though, is he said this line to me that I try to sink in. I was like, well, can we change education in this country? If there's a mom listening that does, like her kid hates school. She's sitting there thinking, like crying, I don't want to go to school anymore. It's so awful. Why do you make me do this? But what's the alternative?
Right.
Can we change that in this country? And he looked at me and he was like, of course, absolutely. He's like, give not just me, but all of us a few years. And in 2 hours a day, we should be able to replace our curriculum and we should and then you know what his number one reason is to go to school? He was like, every child should love going to school. They should want to go to school more than they want to go on vacation. And I was like, I don't know what kind of fucking school you got, Joe, but that has never existed for me. So anyway, I had this beautiful conversation with him.
So let me tell you what to reflect on there.
Okay.
That in the middle of running this massive company and like being the CEO and having all these people whose salaries you can pay and all these people that you are impacting with your work who are going on to launch businesses and getting the support and the guidance that so many entrepreneurs don't have, you are taking time and you have the time to speak to people that help you grow and think in new ways. And how freaking cool.
So cool.
Is it that you have built your life this way and you're self-aware enough to know that these types of conversations help you feel more empowered?
Yeah. Do you think it's good for you or for anybody? Is it good for you to like show that bodily? Like I see you run out and grab that bouquet.
Yes.
Like, because you can say that in your head and be really cerebral about it. But do you think that people need to show that they're excited about life?
I wish people would. Because right now what people are showing is I'm beaten down by life. And look, there's very real things to be worried about and to feel stress around. There are very real problems that people have. This is not like, just smile and your shit goes away. That's not what this is. This is counter-programming to the negative programming that the world is giving you. And that you are wired for positivity. You're wired for growth. It's not a matter of whether or not you are, quote, spiritual, because you are wired for spirituality. They've looked at people's brains and there's circuitry in your brains, because spirituality, by definition, is this belief and awareness that there is something larger than you to this existence. And that day to day, you have moments where you feel connected to it. Spirituality can mean that you're out sitting in a deer stand and you hear a crack in the woods. And then through the trees, you see a barred owl. And you just have this moment where you connect to something deeper. Spirituality could be, singing a hymn. It could be making love to somebody that you love deeply. It could be being present when somebody dies. It could be just enjoying a cup of tea and taking a deep breath. That there's something larger going on. And so to me, why would you want to go through life feeling that the only thing available to you is the heaviness and the disconnection? All of the division you see, which I think is this illusion. I believe that everybody right now is so beaten down and self-silencing, but the vast majority of us, 90% of us, want the same things. We believe in the same things. We may disagree on how to get there. Like, is it 2 hours a day in the school? Is it 3 hours a day in the school? I don't know. How do we pay for it? I don't know. We'll figure it out. But you have to get intentional about allowing happiness back in.
And you do this in a lot of different ways. You've talked about a lot of modalities.
Yes.
You also now go on tour, cities all over the world, which I've got to go to one of these because they look so dynamic.
It's a show.
Yeah, your face right now says it all. Yeah. But some of these modalities you do live, from what I can tell from videos that I've seen of other people. What do you tell people to do tactically?
Yes.
If they want to become more happier, if they want to take more action in their life, and they're going, Mel, boss me around.
Well, and here's what I'm going to tell you. This isn't just your buddy Mel telling you this. There's Dr. Judith Joseph, who is, she's a principal investigator, which means she runs a lab as a PhD medical doctor and professor at NYU. Single mom, runs the only all-female medical lab, research lab, called the Manhattan Behavioral Institute. And she is actually responsible for getting the research done that got the first postpartum drug passed through the FDA by the FDA.
Wow.
So they do all these clinical research studies. She has all this new research. Just has a huge research paper out about high functioning depression, which is this, you're getting it done, but just the wet blanket, you can't feel anything. The prescription from Dr. Judith Joseph is small moments of joy. Small moments where you separate from the heaviness of the world around you and the burden of caring for aging parents and the burden of balancing the bank account and wondering how you're going to get the loan paid and figuring out how to get the online marketing stuff done. And can I get my cousin's kid in here to run the Instagram account? I hear you. Yes. How do I get the Shop Pay integrated into this thing? When are we doing this? Somebody do our internet strategy because I'm running the cash register here.
All right, giving me PTSD.
Right? And so of course, you've invested in all these laundromats. Now, laundromats aren't enough. I got to make them fancy laundromats, and I got to have an Instagram story, and I got to do that. But if I do that, then I can't go to the bank. And oh my God, what am I doing? And so, can you tell I've lived this shit? So
you probably remember what it's the smells that get me from it. You could just put it in front of me. I would be able to smell a laundromat from anywhere.
I bet.
A fucking beagle.
Yes, and so what the hell is that guy say? Is this menopause brain? What's happening?
You were talking about these small moments of joy.
Yes. This is where you are defiant in a world that wants to steal your joy and attention. This is where you say no. And one way you can do this is going to sound crazy. So if you are somebody that is working for somebody else, you got your big dreams, you're listening to this, or you're just getting started, or you're in the throes of oh my God, all I do is work. Imagine a world where you could take 10 minutes and eat your lunch. And maybe, oh my God, go outside and eat your lunch. And if you're a nurse, you're now going, I could never do that. I would get fired. No. You do have a legal lunch break, but you don't take it. I can't step out. You could step into the storeroom and just take a moment and sit down. Another thing you could do is if you don't even remember when you were happy or joyful, I want you to either go through your photos, just scroll back and find some photos that remind you of when you felt a little happier. And then write down a list. What did my life look like? What time did I wake up? What was I eating? How often did I see friends? And you'll notice your life holds the map back to moments of happiness. You already know, you just don't do those things. And then the job becomes, oh, wait, I haven't painted in 10 years. If I pick up a paintbrush, no, it doesn't pay your bills. It does something just as important, though. It pays something forward inside you because you start to feel a little bit more like yourself again. And there's also research around time management that, believe it or not, if you feel like you have no time, adding in something, even though that sounds bananas, because I have no time, Mel. What do you mean add in something? Add in one thing. Like if you used to sing at choir and you haven't done it in 5 years because now you're running 5 laundromats and you're worried about your social media accounts, go back and do that on a Thursday night. And that experience will fill something up inside you that makes you feel like you're actually a little bit more in control, which oddly gives you more clarity about what you want to focus on. There's so much research around this. So that's one thing. Second thing I would tell you to do is wake up every morning. This is so cheesy. And say, today's going to be a good day. No matter what happens today, I'm going to make today a good day. You could be going to a funeral. And you could say to, you know what, I'm going to this funeral and today is still going to be a good day because I'm going to show up for this family. And that simple thing changes the setting in your mind and helps you become more intentional about spotting moments where you can have a good day. Another specific thing I want you to do, and none of you will do this, but those of you that actually take this advice will make more money than everybody else that's listening and watching right now. Put your phone in the bathroom when you go to bed. You will not do it. I know you won't. Because you're like, well, what do they do? But they need to call me. Here's what I want you to imagine. When you wake up in the morning, I want you to imagine the banker that you owe money to. I want you to imagine the hacker that's been trying to break into your bank account sitting in the corner. I want you to imagine every business that you think is doing it better than you. Their marketing team is in there. I want you to think about the side of politics you hate and all the news outlets from that side sitting in there. And I want you to think about like people gossiping about you over here. Because when you wake up in the morning as an entrepreneur, this is the only moment of the day, the only moment where you have any fighting chance to actually think. It's the only moment where you have any chance to put yourself first. You have to fucking fight for those 10 lousy minutes. Because the second you pick up the phone, the hacker, the competition, the people gossiping about you, it's all in there. And you're not even out of bed. And so if you want to know why you are so stressed out and you can't sleep, it's because that freaking thing is right next to you and you're laying in bed and you're pouring it into your brain before you're even vertical. If you want to make more money, you have to fight for the first 15 minutes of the day. I call it the hot 15. The hot 15. I have built my business 15 minutes at a time. The hot 15. And I'm not a morning person. I can't. Bullshit. Don't tell me that story because you can't think clearly at night either because you're exhausted. And you know this, it used to be in business that the second you walked into your business, day is over. All the plans out the window because now you're just in reaction mode. Yep. So the only chance you had was driving over. Like I can think about what the one thing, and we'll get to the one thing rule. I know that's a whatever his name is, Keller book, but here I'm going to tell you how to use it. So just hear me out on this. Imagine if you could carve out those first 15 minutes, and before you let the world into your brain, and before you let everybody else's emergencies become your priority, you carve out 15 minutes. I don't even care what you do. You can have some fancy ass morning routine or not. If you just for 15 minutes, I'll even give you this, just lay in bed. Lay in bed, and here's what I want you to think about. What is the one thing that if I made progress, I don't want you to get it done, because to-do lists are just wish lists. That's all that they are. What's the one thing that if I made progress on this, it would be a good day? The one thing that matters to me. Now, here's the catch, and this is why I am successful. I taught myself to do it before I looked at the phone.
So you actually wake up, take action on the one thing, and don't touch your phone until you
No, absolutely
how
not.
long? How many years?
God, I don't know. For as long as I can remember. I mean, probably at least consistently the last 5 years.
And is it like an 80% of the time every time, or is it 100% of the time every time?
It's like 80% 5 days a week. Like I give myself weekends off.
Yeah.
But I do still think, like, what's the one thing? And a lot of times, like, God, I got to get that photo album done from the trip that we took for my dad's 80th birthday to Peru. That was 18 months ago. Christmas is coming. Oh my God. Yeah. And then I do nothing. But I do something. I literally
take some action. You don't have to complete the whole thing.
Yes.
You just take a little bite of the elephant.
I literally might send a text to my brother and say, dude, we got to get that group photo going. Done.
Positive momentum, compounding,
just one.
Snowball downhill.
Just one. Because here's the thing I want you to understand. What makes you feel out of control is that you're not progressing the thing that matters to you. And so you start to resent your business and the people that work for you and your customers because their emergencies become your priority.
Yep.
And now you're not getting that new AI thing done. Now you're not getting that kid hired to help with Instagram. Now you're not doing that thing you really know you need to do, because the interesting thing about the stuff that matters is not going anywhere. So you can allow it to haunt you, or you can really understand this hot 15. So for me, I actually have a morning routine. I'm disciplined enough over time, and discipline's the wrong word. I understand myself and I set traps for myself. Like one of the reasons why the phone is not next to me is because I am a lazy person and I will pick it up.
Yep.
And so I have to put it walking distance. And now I've solved two problems, Cody, because I don't like to get out of bed either. So the alarm's ringing across the room. I got to get my butt out of bed to go turn the thing off. And then I flip it over. Because I've also told my family, if there's an emergency, call me. People will text you all night long because they're bored and they have bad sleep habits and they want to vomit their stress on you. But they only call you if there's an emergency.
That's so good.
And so now you can sleep at night because you know if somebody's in trouble, they'll call you. Mm-hmm. If something's going on at work, they'll call you. I don't need to check my phone because if it's really important, they'll call me. I keep my phone down. I make my bed right away. Then I typically go into the bathroom because I have to go to the bathroom. And then I brush my teeth. I think about, while I'm brushing my teeth, what is the one thing that matters to me today? I do this every single day. And then I look myself in the eyes, as cheeseball as this is, and I high five myself into the day. This is a bit of neuroscience. And the reason why this is called neurobics, lots of research around this. So the fastest way to change a thinking pattern is to marry it with an unexpected physical action. So there's a lot of research around, writing with a non-dominant hand or standing on one leg while you're doing something else. For your entire life, a high five, I don't ever high five somebody, and be like, I fucking hate you. I hope you fail. Loser. Forever, this has been, go get them.
Yeah.
I believe in you. Brush it off. You got this. And so you don't say a word. You look at yourself in the eyes, and as you high five the mirror, you are taking the physical lifetime association with that and aiming it at how you feel about yourself.
It's so good because, at least me, I'm similar. I need a bunch of, I will come up with every excuse under the sun. I literally had this incredible neuroscience on the podcast, scientist on the podcast the other day. And my brilliant world-changing question was, I'm getting older, my hip hurts, I can't fucking stretch. I don't know why, but in the evening, I cannot make myself stretch. Like I can do billion-dollar deals, I could do this. I can't get on the floor. This is the dumbest thing ever. And I had her help me.
What'd she say? I want to know.
Yeah, she basically said, why are you doing it at the end of the day when you're completely depleted? You've made all of the decisions throughout the day and you think that you're some sort of superhero that's going to have more in the tank when you don't. You're tired. It's cold in the house. It's dark.
The cold and the dark, yes.
Yeah. And she's like, why would you think that would work for you? And I was like, well, take it easy. I don't know why, but I did it. I tried for years. Yeah. She's like, so we're going to switch it in the morning. And she's like, and you're going to text one person every morning and you're going to tell them you're doing it. That's it. And she goes, don't do 15 minutes, do 2, which is like, I love and then there's one other thing that you talk about too, that has helped me a lot too. When I had I got divorced previous to my husband. I was married before and got married really young, and takes 2 to tango, both of our faults, but my decision to divorce.
Yep.
It was probably one of the hardest decisions I've ever made because I made a promise to a human and I said forever. And then I took a vow. And I'm religious. And at that time I was maybe a little less than, but I was and Latina mom and all the things. I mean, I think she cried harder actually when I got divorced than I did. But I was pretty devastated and I couldn't find my happiness, Mel. Like I'm a happy motherfucker. These guys know I'm running around here. We have long days. I'm going. It was gone.
We would be in a lot of trouble.
Oh God, this place would be.
You know how I feel about you? I'm like mad you don't live near me.
Same. Dude, I'd be stretching like a motherfucker if you lived near me.
Let's go.
5, 4, 3, 2 stretch, But I kept a happiness list because I had so few moments where I felt any happiness that when I did, I just wrote them down. And it would be like, that's a pansy. Like, I love pansies. They look like little happy faces to me.
Oh, I love that. The little faces.
The faces.
So cute. Oh,
I don't know what it is.
I love that. Yes.
So I'd write like, I saw a pansy today, the littlest things. And over the years, I've kept this list. And sometimes I'll have a little moment and then I'll go back. Like and I'll say one thing. So do I buy a $5 pansy at the garden center? That would make me happy, And so I love the word that you said, which is I need hacks to trick myself into it.
Yes. And here's the next one. When I walk into the closet, I have laid out my exercise clothes like I have geranimals or whatever those things were that I used to wear from Sears. I have to step over it and ignore it.
Yeah, that's good.
And so no decision. There it is, like a middle finger on the floor. Pull it on. And now I go straight out the door with my dogs. And I take a 10-minute walk. And while I'm on the walk, I think about what's the thing I could do that advances the thing. Mm-hmm. And I still have not looked at my phone most mornings on a work day. Yes.
Until when?
Well, if it's a good day,
yeah,
I will then do what I need to do right after the walk because I then drink a big mason jar of water before I have my coffee.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things that I work on in that Hot 15 are longer term projects. Like this Peru photo album really nagged me for a long time. I finally got it done. It took like 7 hours on a Sunday. It turned out great, but that was a lot. And anyway, I typically use the Hot 15 for something that is really a longer term thing. Like I really started working on the concept and the Let Them Theory book in that window. A lot of operational stuff I will work on in that window. Yeah. There are, like, if I'm screwing around with AI and trying to learn more and how to use it at a more advanced level, I'll get on Microsoft Copilot and use it then. But it really, really has made a huge difference because it taught me that you don't need a lot of time. And oftentimes, if you can get yourself going, you will keep going.
Yeah, it's true.
And so, and so it's really, really, really important. Now, of course, there are weeks like production weeks where everything's on fire. I'm in Boston for 5 days. My EA is texting me at 5:30. Are you up? Plotty's in a half an hour. And I'm like, oh my God, okay, I'm up. But and so it's out there. But here's the thing. I might respond to Lynn, but I don't look at my phone for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And now I'm back. I make my bed in a hotel room. Yeah, because it's
just
how
a
I
habit.
feel like myself.
Yeah.
That way I feel like myself everywhere that I go. And so I'm still in my mind thinking about the thing. And so then once you pick up the phone, here's what I want you to understand. You are now in what I basically call phase 2 of the day. 5 phases to a day. Phase 1 is from the moment you wake up to the moment you pick up your phone. That's why I want you to think about the Hot 15. This is where you protect your time and energy. Phase 2 is now you're in reaction mode. And you are getting paid to react. This is what you're doing. Phase 3 is where you go out of that, and now you're starting to transition. Because we all know from 3 to 5, if you're an employee and you work kind of typical hours, you're like, meh, I'm sort of out of here. We're not doing a lot of...
Not a contrarian thinking, but everywhere else.
Yeah, I'm just sort of right? And then from phase 4 is all the stuff you do for life. Cooking dinner, being with family, all this stuff. Phase 5 is when you stop looking at your phone and wind down to bed.
What do you do? Read a book?
What do I do? Okay, so I'm a big bath person.
Yeah, me too.
And I typically, I will, on the work night weeks, I have a drink. Because it's like my one vice, that and weed. Like I will, I live in Vermont. I mean, come on. And so it's the one thing that I did not have a drink last night. My brain was going for probably an hour and a half. Yeah. I can have one sip of a Manhattan or a gin and tonic or a margarita. We're here in Texas. One sip, my brain's like, okay, we're done.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing. And I'm done shaming myself about it. It's just my thing. You. So
me too. Mezcal, wine.
Also, I can't do the mezcal. It's a little too smoky, but I like a smoky Manhattan.
Wow.
Don't like the smoky tequila. I don't know what that's
Maybe
about.
We'll give you some different options. But I think but
let me tell you one more thing, because this is
tell me.
Unbelievable. This is fucking unbelievable. Okay, wait to hear this. So, you know how a lot of people have gratitude lists?
Yeah.
Steal this. Have a piece of paper next to your bed and write down every to-do that you didn't get to.
That sounds awful.
Oh, no, it's amazing. Wait till you hear what you're doing.
Okay, fine.
You're closing tabs in your brain. See, your brain runs on open loops.
Yeah.
And if you had some I got to do da. One of the reasons why people have a hard time falling asleep is you're ruminating because your brain is trying to keep the loop open because the tabs aren't closed. There is incredible research that has it's life-changing. If you write down all the things you didn't get to, your brain's like, oh, Cody's got it on a piece of paper. We can close the loop.
Great point.
And research shows that doing that is as effective as a sleeping pill. That you fall asleep between 8 and 10 minutes faster.
That pharma stocks dropping everywhere.
And then check this out. You don't have to worry because the list is right there.
I like that a lot.
Isn't that great?
It's such a good point because you know what? I didn't realize it, but I do 2 outsourcing things too.
What do you do?
Which is I have assistants now, but back when I had my first one, which isn't that expensive to get, all things considered, but for $1,500 a month, you can get a virtual assistant. That's how I first started.
Okay.
And if I don't write something down in the moment, it's gone. If you tell me your birthday, I'm going to forget it. If you tell me, I forget
August 24th because it's my wedding.
You're going to be one of those friends that remembers.
No, only because it is. You want to know why?
Yeah.
Because it relates to me.
Yes.
If it was some random ass, I would have don't care. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't care. I would prefer you didn't because then I'll feel bad when I forget yours. But I send a little note to my assistants and I just have them put it on my to-do list.
I love that.
And so I do it pretty nonstop. And now I figured out how to delay send on texts. You know how you can do send later?
Yes.
So I'm not the dick emailing them at 11 when I can't, whatever. And it's been a game changer. And I'll even say, I'm stressing about this. Can you just put 1 hour on your day tomorrow and you stress about this stuff instead? Just kind of put it somewhere, do something with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't really transfer stress. She's not going to internalize it like I do. But she'll be like, hey, I got that. I know you're worried about the doctor stuff. I've got it. I'll handle that for you. I'm going to schedule it from 3 to 4.
Yep.
And so I've never thought about having a little thing by my bed. But at first it gave me a panic attack, that idea.
Well, me
but
too.
now it makes sense.
This came from, I can't remember the neuroscientist that just shared this on our, but with the research involved, but it was just so counterintuitive. But once they explained the open loops of your mind and that this allows your mind to go, oh, I don't have to keep this open. She's got it.
You know, one thing I'm curious about with
Tell
you.
me.
You've had all this success now.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I think people think, oh man, when I have all this success, it's going to be amazing. I'm going to figure it all out. And all the negative emotions are going to go away.
Right.
Do you still get like jealous?
No.
No. What?
No.
How do you
I
not
don't
get
want
jealous
anything.
anymore?
I'll tell you because, well, first of all, I understand jealousy. So jealousy is a very important thing to feel because you can only feel jealous of something you want.
Yeah.
Like, just think about it. I have zero interest in a yellow Lamborghini. If somebody drives past me in a yellow Lamborghini and a bunch of people are like, oh, God, look at the car. I'm like, what car? The Hyundai over there? Like, what are you talking about? I don't want one. And so when you understand that jealousy is blocked desire, and what is it blocked by? It's blocked by your belief that you can't have it too. And when the settings in your mind are that beautiful white kitchen with the marble countertops are for other people, but I can never have that, you will feel jealous if that is meant for you. And I struggled with so much jealousy. I was that friend that wanted to be happy for my friends. I remember when we were struggling financially. Oh my God. Have you ever had a friend? You're probably that. You probably have been that friend for people. But I don't mean that in a mean way, but
be true.
Have you ever had a friend who all of a sudden like moves to the nicer town?
Yeah.
Or all of a sudden goes from renting an apartment to like some house, and they inevitably invite you over and they open up the door, and as you're driving up the driveway, you're like, how the hell do they have this much money?
Yep.
And then they open up the door and they hand you the glass of wine, and you start to grip the wine glass as you're getting a tour of their house. Hey, Cody, I'm happy for you. I was so happy for my friend because I love my friend, but I was so sad for me because her house looked like a fucking restoration hardware store. And then we rounded the corner, and that bitch, she had the white cabinets with the marble. I never should have shared my Pinterest board with that bitch. She stole my cabinets. Oh my God. And then you get in the car, and then you basically drink all night. You got that smile?
Oh no, that smile.
That smile. So how are you? Then you get in the car, and if you're like a complete emotionally immature jerk like I am, you turn to your husband and you're like, why couldn't you have been in finance? Why did you have to like people? Why are you a nice guy? And poor Chris is like, he's like shrinking like a turtle. He's like, I don't know. I don't know why I didn't go. It would have made things easier. Oh my God. This was me every day, all day long.
God, I need to meet this guy.
I was in radio in 2008. It was the first job I got. $25 an hour. $800,000 in debt. I loved that job because I could literally talk to strangers and not think about my problems. And I felt less alone. And the thing about radio that's so cool is it's 1-to-1. And I fell in love with it. And as my career really started taking off, which would have been 2015, I'd suppose, podcasting started. And I remember seeing it, and I always wanted to get back into radio. And I just kept telling myself, no. I talked myself out of starting a podcast for probably, if I'm 50, I'd say probably about 6 years. And I kept saying, it's too late. You missed the window. What are you going to say? That monk, Jay Shetty, Stephen Bartlett, fuck that guy. You stole it from me. I got nothing to say. Who's got they've all, totally. This is what you tell. Oh, there's another restaurant in my sister's, I can't possibly become a real estate agent. My sister's, she's going to think I'm, course you're copying her.
Yeah.
And so I would feel jealousy. I would see an episode release, and Jay and I are friends. We're in a mastermind. Like we were just texting yesterday about something. He's a very, very, very close friend of mine. And I was like, I am so jealous. I'd see my buddy Rich Roll. Fucking Rich. You know, he started a podcast.
Incredible hair.
Yes. Like, what am I going to say? And so I just kept talking myself out of it. And the jealousy, it's so amazing. The jealousy is a signal from something deep inside you. Mm. And the more jealous you are, the more it is meant for you. And what I want you to do is I want you to ask yourself, go beneath the surface. What is it about it? Like if you're jealous of a friend's marriage, what is it about the marriage that is the thing that you really want in your life? What is that? And here's the truth. If you look at jealousy as a gift from your deepest dreams and from what is meant for you, and you understand that there is not a human being that can block your way. You do that for yourself. Just because somebody else has it doesn't mean you can't create something that's proximate to it for yourself. Mm-hmm. And when you block yourself from doing the work to create the things that you want, from doing the work to change your health or change your relationship, you will become more and more jealous because jealousy's blocked desire. And the thing for me is that I don't feel jealous. And the reason why is if I even get a ting that feels more like a pull now, I just go, oh, I gotta like work on that. That's it. Like every time around our buddy Stephen Pertlet, I'm like, what tech are you using? Like, what? Okay. Hey guys, we got to do get the thing under the table that he's got.
Right. The tapper.
Yes. And then I never remember to click it. So, and then everybody's like, you've clicked it 1,000 times. I'm like, oh, that was my knee. I'm sorry. Like, I just can't pay attention like Stephen does. But I see it as signals. And because here's the belief that I now have. I believe that most things in life that you want are there for the creating. That there is an infinite number of white kitchen cabinets. Mm-hmm. And if your friend is a bitch because you have the same cabinet color, let her be a bitch about it. Just take note that that's kind of who she is. That's okay. Let her. But don't block yourself from going for the things that you want in life. And, that period of my life taught me something important because it happened when Chris and I were struggling. It happened when I had told Chris, I don't believe in your ability to get us out of this. Mm. And that anger and that fear fueled me to go, well, I'm going to have to do it. No one's coming. It's up to me. I'm doing it. And I was resentful, but I bumped into my ambition. Mm. See, the reason why I could say to Chris, I don't believe in your ability to fix this is because he's not a corporate guy. I'm married to a guy who's a death doula. He's a spiritual psychologist. He created men's retreats. Like, he is such a heart-led guy. He is so unmotivated by money. He would live in a yurt if I allowed him to, which I will not. I mean, we live in Vermont. That's the closest. And I love to camp. I just don't want to live in a tent. But he is a true, of the spirit and of nature person. And so I think I instinctively knew that he wasn't going to get us out of it because he's not built for that. What he was built for is actually grounding and healing our family in the aftermath of it. What he was built for is staying home and being the on-call parent when I was on the road 150 days a year, because when I first started getting paid to speak, we still had liens on the house. When I gave that TEDx talk that went crazy viral, is the first time I ever talked about the 5-second rule, this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 move. And I had liens on my house. I was $800,000 in debt as I stood on that stage. And when people started to pay me I said yes to everything. And you will have that happen in your career where you will take the world's worst deals because you have to. Because your highest value is actually security, safety, and family.
Yeah.
And so I said yes to all kinds of things that I would never say yes to now because it was aligned with my mission. Pay off these bills, get my family secure. Like I was not trying to be anybody. I was trying to solve a problem that I had. And as I got better and better and more and more and more successful, I just became much, much better at the business side of it. And what I've learned, and I say this to in every partnership meeting I have, that we get into, like with these massive Fortune 10, Fortune 100 brands, I'll be talking to their CEO or their CMO about a project we're going to do together. And I'm like, look, I'm not talent. I'm a businesswoman. And that's how I need you to relate to me.
Yep.
And that is like, I discovered through that experience of being so in debt that I freaking love building things. I love the business. I love the tech. I love being the first mover in something. I love figuring things out. I love being the person people are watching as an example, not because of my ego, but because it means I'm doing something that's making an impact.
Well, I mean, one of the first things you said to me when you walked in here really resonated with me, that the best builders in the world have, I think, which is you really care about the people you serve. And I'm not like paying you lip service, because you came into my office and you said, hey, you really want to do this podcast thing? You have to obsess on who you're talking to.
Yes.
And then you told me, at my podcast, here is who we are talking to. And then you were like, and remember, they're giving you an hour of their day. They don't have it. They could give it to anybody. They're giving it to you. What are you doing with it?
Yes.
And you used the word maniacal. You said,
Yes.
we are maniacal about giving that person value.
Yes.
And then we talked about all the things you won't do that could make you a ton of money and even more famous. But
I don't want to be famous.
won't.
Like that is not why I got into this. Like
You want to be a famous life coach.
No, fuck you. I literally, that's the piece.